Break it down. Give me 5 people you ready to fight right now.
Timothy Bradley, Paulie, Floyd Mayweather, Devin Alexander, and whoever the fans want to see.
Listen, I told you give them something visual, so you went ahead and made your own YouTube-based TV show. It's an array of IPAs and fighters on the road. Got a question? Put them in your comment section right below. Barbershop talk while you're sitting in your living room. Pacquiao, Mayweather, and we can't forget the brews. Coming to you live with the scoops like a ladle. Allow me to introduce the boxing round table.
Rollo Jenkins, boxologist, Zone 6, Dre, BT Pound, 78 Fight News, Blood Boxing, Blood Fists, Boxing Beats and Rhymes, Female Boxing Fan, Carter J, Pull Counter, Joker Boxing, D Styles, the whole YTBC.
All right, real quick, we back. Just got in contact with the two fellas who want to do the debate. Today's debate is supposed to be on Bruce Lee, whether he was a real martial artist or not. Tony Review is going to present his case. He is the challenger. Jedi, aka Jay Cotto, is going to present his case. He is defending. So I dropped the link for both of those guys to get in here so that we can keep cooking. We can go ahead and kind of conversate on the judges and see who we want to come in and judge this beautiful debate. Let me see if I can get some guys in here to hit this link that are notable and trustworthy. So I'm waiting on Jay Cotto and I'm waiting on Tony Reviews. Tony Reviews informed me that he had hit the video and I had just ended it. So we finna find out now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to it. So Tony Reviews, I am here, and Jay Cotto, I am here for the debate. All right, I'm finna text Jay Cotto, and then we're gonna communicate that right now. Give me 1 second. All right, the technology good right here on my side. We got a full head of steam. We just waiting on the two debaters to come on in. And that's Jay Cotto, Tony Reviews. Bruce Lee debate. Tony Reviews versus Jedi, aka Jay Cotto. We'll give these guys a second to get in here. We may need some judges. Y'all know how we do it. We get 3 judges. All right. We also get a chat judge just to come on, just to represent. You know, they get to ask questions. I won't say anything. I'm just the host, just the moderator, just to make sure everything's, you know, fair and just. We don't want nobody to be getting any, you know, short end of the sticks. This should be a good one. Waiting on those 2 guys to arrive. I informed Jay Cotto and everybody. So we'll try to get some judges in here in a second, and we're going to go from there. I couldn't judge these going on biased from Bruce. Well, we're going to see. They got some judges. Okay, so here goes Jedi. Let me cut the music down so we get started. At least, so he can remind everybody. Okay, let's get that down. There goes Jedi. He's here.
What's up? What's up?
Okay, yeah. Tony called. He emailed me and said he had just hopped on when we killed the live. I said, okay, cool. We finna go do it now then.
Yeah,
So
yeah. He making it sound like you guys as soon as you saw him, like you cut off or whatever. It had nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? It was just you were on for a while. You know what I mean?
no, we was good. It's just it ain't nothing because I mean if because I can come right down here and crank it back up specifically.
Yeah,
I just wanted
yeah,
to make sure he was good. I just had
yeah.
my time ran. We good, and if he saying he was available, I'm available. So now we can see. I hope he shouldn't be busy because there ain't no point in telling me you was finna jump on and then all of a sudden you magically busy. So I believe
Yeah.
that Tony is free. I think he should
Yep.
be available now because he just texted me that. So
Yep.
I'm here to make sure he do his thing.
No doubt. And Reg Glove have reached out to him as well because that's how I knew he was live or whatever. He tried to get me over on his channel, but that wasn't the deal. It was here, to be done in the arena. So so we're here now. Yeah, we're here now.
So who are the judges? Who do you guys want to be a judge?
I know it was Bruce Gas if he's around.
Yep, Bruce Gas is in here.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be Red Glove Militant, but yeah, he said he was busy. He wasn't gonna be able to show. So we're gonna have to pick somebody from the crowd that want to do it. I'm with it.
Maybe
Yeah, that's very unbiased. He didn't want OG Boogie because OG Boogie used to study with Bruce Lee's best friend. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay, Tony said 1 second, so he'll be in here. Let's get this set up. Blood, you want to come in and judge this debate if you want? Bruce Gas, they're calling for you, so that'll be 2 judges. Let me see if I can grab Phil Walker real quick or somebody. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Blood is not available. Bruce Gas. We need Bruce Gas. Anybody else want to be a judge real quick? Let me try to call Phil Walker. See if I can do that.
No doubt. I'm gonna go on mute for a second, my bro.
Oh, no doubt. All right. So how many people we looking for some judges? Obviously I'm the moderator. We got Tony Reviews on his way. Can we get 3 judges? Bruce Gas should be one of them because that's what the guys wanted. And is there anybody else interested in being a judge to listen to these guys' arguments? Anybody got any time, hype load? Anybody free to judge this Bruce Lee debate? I'll leave it open for a minute until Tony get here, and then we'll go from there.
No doubt.
Okay, let me just do some music. All right. Waiting on Tony now at this point. Lisa, you want to get on and judge this by chance? Red Glove, I know you said you were supposed to be one, but Cotto told me you're busy.
Yeah, if Red Glove can get on, that'll be,
Yeah, he in here. I don't know if he can get on. I know Blood on the road. Bruce Gas is in here. I'm waiting on Bruce Gas. Antonio MMA, would you want to be a judge of this to jump in? He's pretty solid. Hype low. And we waiting on Tony because he said he hopped on. You ready to go, Jedi? We got everything set up?
Yes, sir. Everything's set up.
All right. So now if he don't now, so this changes everything, J. Cotto. Cotto. Now since he called me to say he was ready, now ain't no pushing it back or giving me no consideration. Now it's over with. Now he called it, so now So now see what I'm saying? I want to get it all the way right for you. Now, if he doesn't show, now that's when we have a problem.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Yeah, and Red Glove let him know to come to your channel, so waiting patiently.
Listen, I told you give them something visual, so you in the head and made your own YouTube-based TV show. It's an array of IPAs and fighters on the road. Got a question? Put them in your comment section right below. Barbershop talk while you're sitting in your living room. Pacquiao, Mayweather, and we can't forget the brews. Coming to you live with the scoops like a ladle. Allow me to introduce the boxing round table. Yeah.
Rollo Jenkins, boxologist, Zone 6.
Yep, we live in HD. So what we doing, fellas and ladies, is we waiting on Tony Reviews to come in and take this debate with J. Cotto, aka the Jedi. The topic is Bruce Lee. Tony Reviews is the challenger, so you guys know how this works. He's gonna come in, he's gonna do his open. Jedi's gonna do his open. They're gonna go ahead and do their thing from there, and then they get to open it up. And if we get some judges in here, we get to have a dialogue. There goes Tony. Tony, you in here?
Yeah, I'm in here. Just give me like 2 seconds. I was on the phone with rooms to go. I'm not gonna get my furniture. It looks like I was irritated. No, I just got off the phone with them. I did the live because I sent you emails, but I don't know what happened. Like I was in the background on your StreamYard, and then it went down. So that's why I was trying to get a hold of you. But
no, we just got off. But you here now, so it don't matter.
Yeah. What's the format? How does this work?
So you issued the challenge. So you go first, meaning that you're gonna lay out your premise, and then Jay Cotto's gonna lay out his premise. Then you get to rebut. Each one you get to rebut. And then the second round, of course, is open dialogue where you guys get to conversate with each other back and forth. And then the third round is your closing. But in the second round, if we can get some judges in here, then they will usually ask questions as well to get clarity on what you guys are saying, if they have any. And then we also will kind of read some chat questions. If we don't have any judges, you guys can just cook how you do, and then we'll just let everybody kind of, go from there. Bruce Gas is in here. He's one of the guys that you guys wanted. A Red Glove is in here, but he may be busy, big blunts. So I'm just trying to, while you get yourself together, I'm trying to see if anybody want to come in and be a judge.
All right, last question about the format. Is there a time limit, or we just talk until we don't talk?
No, it ain't no time limit. It's on you. Whatever you prove it, whatever you think about Bruce Lee, deliver your opening. Jay Cotto is going to give you an opening so you can kind of contest it. You rebut, then he gets to rebut, and then anything that you holding on to, you could get it in the open round. You could challenge all his policies or opinions or thoughts, and it's going down like that, like the other ones. And then in the third round, you're going to close strong. What makes it interesting if the judges come in, because the second round, let me see, give me 5 minutes. I might get settled and judge if need be. Okay, so the fix, he said he's going to come in and he'll judge. I'm not qualified to judge Bruce Lee debate. Well, Bruce, guys, they still wanted you. You still can listen objectively. You've been around for a while, unless the guys don't want that, but they did say they wanted you, Bruce Gas. Fix said he'll come in here. Is there anybody else? One more volunteer for the judging.
Also, if I could point out, during each rebut, during the debate, no interruptions, until one is done. You know what I'm saying? Giving each other fair ground. And the judges, if you pick, man, can't be biased. We both feel strong about that. So just come on up.
Mm-hmm. So far, I got Phil said 5 minutes. I don't. He's pretty solid. Bruce Gas was he's saying he's not qualified, but I know you guys picked him, but let's see what he says. And then we can get one more in here. Martin King, you want to jump in and judge? Lisa?
No, Ronald Finkley. Ronald Finkley's been trolling my channel for like the last 2 months. But as far as like qualified goes, I don't think you really need to be qualified to judge it, because it's not. You don't need to extensively know about Bruce Lee, what he did not do. The point is he a real fighter? So Jay's going to make his case. I'm going to make my case. So even if you knew nothing about him, if we can't argue our point good enough to where you understand, then obviously we're losing the debate.
That's well said, Tony. That's exactly how it is. And obviously, as you guys know, I cannot participate in any kind of judging. I'm just here to make sure these guys get their fair shake and allow the judges to do their thing. Other than that, we're good to go. I'm just here to sit back and chill. I don't interfere. I don't play sides or give tips or anything like that. The judges are starting to tilt toward one way or something like that, toward Tony or toward Jedi, I will jump in and tell them, no, you can't do that. That's not cool. We can't, you're not here to debate the debaters. You're just here to judge and get clarity. And most of these guys know that. We only did a couple of these now. All right, Phil said he's going to need 5 minutes. If you guys want to go ahead and just make sure y'all are clear on what's going on amongst each other as well, too, without giving any debate information out. Just make sure y'all clear on the challenge and what was said so people can kind of get an idea of what's actually going on. Are you good, Tony? You good, Jedi?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Okay, all right. Hey. So everybody understand what's the debate, Tony, from your perspective? What is the debate so the people can hear what you're debating, not necessarily the information, but what it is, and Jedi, what is the debate so we won't have no conflict of interest?
Okay, so in my opinion, this is debate, and this is where it all started years ago. Bruce Lee is not a real fighter. What I mean by that is, when people compare Bruce Lee, they say, oh, he could beat up Mike Tyson. Oh, he could beat up Brock Lesnar. Oh, he could beat up Muhammad Ali. Oh, he could beat up Joe Frazier. Oh, he could beat up this guy, that guy. It doesn't matter who the guy is. They compare him to guys who are real fighters, professional fighters who are proven, not guys who just fought in a backyard. Real fighters, okay? Hall of Famers, known people. That is what Bruce Lee is compared to all the time. And he's not that. He's never been that, and he will never be that, no matter how much you like him. So that's what a real fighter is. A real fighter are guys who have blood, sweat, and tears in the game, who have earned their stripes, whether they're world champions or they came up short, they still did it. That's a real fighter.
All right, well said. So everybody heard that, right? All right.
My turn?
No. He was just telling us what the debate is about so people can kind of know how we got here so they won't be like confused because, we just kind of came on and bust the scene open. So I just want to make sure y'all on the same page on kind of what y'all debating to make sure there's no discrepancies in it. So, Jay Cotto, if you want to tell everybody, the audience, kind of like, hey, how we got here, a little bit of background and, do some comedic stuff, you could do that now. This is the time and the space.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Modern King Boxing says, hold up, I won't influence anybody. All right. Antonio MMA. So do we have any volunteers to come in and judge this debate, or we just gonna let them, I'm gonna let them play it by ear. I know Phil is listening, so if we need him to jump in and we get enough judges that jump in that's listening to the debate, then they could go ahead and jump in. So I ain't gonna hold you guys up because it's gonna be a good listen. You guys can go ahead and get started, and then we'll go from there. So Tony, it's on you.
We don't want to wait for the judges. I don't mind waiting like 2-3 minutes for Phil to get on.
Okay, Phil. Yeah, he said about 5 minutes. I know he's listening. He just gonna connect in as y'all doing y'all first round. Probably Bruce Gas just kind of blipped in and then blipped out, and then them be 2 judges so far. And then as we go, I'm sure one of the third judges will jump in that we kind of respect and recognize. So if you want to wait, we'll give him about. So here we got Bruce Gas, and Bruce Gas can kind of. Hey, what's up, Bruce? OG.
What's up? Yeah, I came in and got bounced out as soon as I came in. So
Nah, I'll probably just drop out. Okay. So listen, there it is. We got Phil and we got Bruce Gas. Phil Walker, if you want to tell them kind of, how you plan on judging if they need that, and Bruce Gas the same thing. You guys
What's
got
up, Phil?
Yeah, no, for me, man, just personally, when I heard about the debate, man, I told Ken Zone 6 that, I was excited about it, man. So for me personally, I just want you guys to present logical arguments, something that somebody who don't necessarily follow this particular combat sport can listen to and understand what you're saying, right? And just may the best debater win.
All right, Bruce Gas, OG, what you think? What you got? How can they win your vote?
well, I was first introduced to Bruce Lee back in the '60s, man. I used to watch the Green Hornet, and he was Cotto, and he was the man, bro. He was lightning fast. He would throw darts. He would throw stars, whatever the fuck he had at his disposal. If we want to compare him to a real street fighter, then hey, I'll listen to your arguments, and whichever one makes the most sense is the one I'll vote for the winner of the debate. But I don't see this as a hostile debate. I see it just as pretty much reminiscent and kind of giving your opinion on what Bruce Lee would do against the guys like Tyson and Joe Frazier.
No doubt. I just want to say, as a participant, thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time out for being judges in this debate. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
All right, this is the last call for the judges. We got 2 up here, and then we'll just see how this cooks with the third one.
I got one more quick question, right? Just because I want to make sure I'm judging this thing properly. So, are we judging whether Bruce Lee is a real fighter or is he a competitive fighter?
Nope, a real fighter.
Because it is a difference.
Yep, is he a real fighter?
Okay, I just wanted to be sure because I follow martial arts and it is a difference. Okay, gotcha.
All right. How you clear, Bruce? You clear, Phil?
Hey, Zone, are we waiting for anybody else to jump on, or is it just going to be them?
No, it's going to be these 2. Somebody will probably jump in. I just want to make sure that they're good to go. I'm asking them now just to make sure. We'll give them at 2 minutes, and we'll start this thing 25 minutes after the fact.
Hey, Zone, is Champ Ross here? Toby just said he knows a lot about Bruce Lee, so to make it more fair, if he's in the chat, let him join so that way Jedi has somebody he could talk to directly, because that would give me a judge that I'm trying to sway over.
Okay, I got you. I see what you're saying. But hey, y'all hear it. Tony said it. So if you want to judge and you want to come on, then come on. I'm giving 1 more minute, and we're gonna get it crunk up, and then they'll just do their thing from now. Put the chat in the link one more time. The link in the chat. All right,
shit, let Blood be on here. I know Blood knows a lot.
Blood on the road. So we'll see. We'll give him a few seconds. Somebody gonna click in as you guys start clicking. Okay. Yeah, he said, these guys running some errands on this early Saturday, which makes sense. But no doubt. So hey man, y'all go ahead. Y'all got the floor. The judges got the link if they need it. Whoever wants to be the first one come in, we'll go from there. But I'll leave you guys to it. I'm going off.
Tony, you have the floor, brother.
Yeah, give me like 2 seconds. So, Jay, I would advise you grab a pencil and paper so we can rebuttal each other. I'm just going to grab a pencil and paper.
Okay. Tony talking a lot of junk, man. So somebody might want to get into this one. It's gonna be cool.
I don't need an eraser. I've got a marker and paper. I've been ready. Man, J. Cotto, this is gonna be a good one. Oh man, somebody keep messing with him. Tony sucks at debating. You guys are hell on wheels, boy. Just remember, it hits all by itself.
So he doing voices. Modern King boxing. Yeah, I said it. Tony. Modern King be fucking with Tony, man. All right. While we waiting on Tony to get his pencil and his paper and his equipment, is there anybody else that want to jump on and judge this debate? Even if you're listening and you can't jump on right this second, you can still jump on at the back end of the second round once Phil and Bruce Gas have asked questions for clarity. If you kind of jump on late, I'll just say that third spot questioning for the back end.
All right, yeah, like I said, I was just grabbing a pencil and paper because you said there's no time limit, so there's no telling how long anyone's going to talk. So I don't want to forget any points. All right, so I'm ready whenever Jay's ready. If you're ready, we ready. Let's go. You ready, Jay?
Let's get it.
All right, let's do it. All right. First, I have to ask you, what is a fighter? What is a fighter? So if we go by the definition of a fighter, a person or animal that fights, especially a soldier or a boxer, according to Webster, and boxer is underlined. Why? Because a boxer is professional. So we have to look at this like this. Did Bruce Lee ever have a professional fight? Did he ever fight anybody on a professional level? We're not talking about Kimbo Slice in the backyard who goes pro to get knocked out by a dude with pink hair who's in a whole weight class below him. We're talking about, did he fight anybody of any status to make us believe the nonsense that people spit that he could beat somebody like Mike Tyson in his prime? A 135-pound man at 5'7", could he beat Mike Tyson in his prime? Could he beat a Muhammad Ali? Well, according to Bruce Lee, he stated himself he would never be able to beat a Muhammad Ali in a fight. But yet people say, and quote, that he could. Now, when you talk about is he a real fighter, you have to ask yourself, was he around real fighters? What did they think about him? Well, here's the deal. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to use my words. I'm going to let Chuck Norris tell you what he thought when he was asked what Bruce Lee would do in a fight against him, or excuse me, if him and Bruce Lee ever fought. Listen to his words, exactly what he says.
It's bad.
Notice he said, I was a professional fighter. No, he was not. So he's telling you right there, the reason why they never actually fought was because he was professional. There are tiers to this. There are levels to this. Then we could go to Black Belt Magazine, which Zone, if you want it, I can link to you. Joe Lewis, who is known as the person who started American kickboxing, stated that he did not believe Bruce Lee could take a punch, that he would get knocked out in a real fight, that he did not think he was a real fighter. I can post you the article, Zone 6. Now, you have to understand, somebody like Michael John White was also with Black Belt TV, and he made the comment that, yes, of course, I could beat Bruce Lee in a fight. I'm 220 pounds. He's 135. I would win. However, the problem with the martial arts world is Bruce Lee is worshipped like a god. He's infallible. You cannot talk about him like he's a Catholic priest. And because of that, Michael John White recanted what he said, just like many other great fighters have recanted what they've said about him because of the backlash that they get from the martial arts world. Now, again, the question is, was he a real fighter? Not, could he fight? I don't need to prove whether he could or could not fight. It's irrelevant because we don't know, because he never fought. The only fights that he allegedly fought were behind the scenes where only a handful of people actually saw it, if they even saw it at all. So we have to ask ourselves, did he ever fight? Well, on a professional level, no. Why did he never fight? Bruce Lee himself said that he would never fight because, and I quote, There's guidelines, mandatory stances, and traditions, as he always maintains himself how real life fights work. In other words, because there's rules, he's not going to compete in them, even though he went to every karate competition he could get his eyes on, every kickboxing competition that he could get his eyes on. Stalking champions like Joe Louis, meeting him in the parking lot after he won a kickboxing match to train with him. But he doesn't believe in the rules. So that's why he never fought. In fact, the reason why Bruce Lee created Jeet Kune Do was because he was getting beat up. He found out that, now I'm drawing a blank. He created Jeet Kune Do because Wing Chun, what he practiced in did not work. And that's been proven several times over YouTube now. We had that Chinese MMA guy that was knocking out all the masters of the karate class out easily. So Wing Chun doesn't work in practice. It doesn't work in reality. It only looks good on film, which brings me up to what Bruce Lee was. He was an action star. We don't look at Jason Statham, the transporter, and say, oh, he could beat up Mike Tyson because he looks good on camera. We don't look at The Rock and say he could beat up Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder because he looks good on camera. Anybody can look good when it's choreographed. Now, again, my opponent, he's going to try to say that he could fight, that he fought in the background, or he fought people like Wong Jackman, who himself was not a professional fighter at all. He was just another master, quote unquote. But to become a master, you don't have to fight anybody. You just get your belts. You do the discipline long enough, and you could be a master in any discipline of kung fu, karate, etc. Beating people up is not a requirement, but they fought in the background. And we'll get to that in the rebuttal because I know he's going to bring it up. So again, I have to come back full circle to the criteria that make you a real fighter. Is to actually compete. It's to actually fight people who know how to fight as well, who have proven themselves. In fact, when we look at a guy like Deontay Wilder, who I just brought up, many people say he was no good. Why? Because he lacked a resume. Well, goddamn, if he lacked a resume, at least he had one, because Bruce Lee has none. And you can't argue that there was no combat sports at that time, because full contact karate was huge. It was huge. That's how Chuck Norris got so known. That's how Joe Louis got so known. So there was full contact going on in karate, his discipline, Jeet Kune Do, but karate was what it all ties into at the time, and he never did it. All he did was demonstrations. Do we look at other people who never fought like Steven Seagal and say he could beat up all these great fighters? No, people laugh at Steven Seagal. Why? Because he never fought. Now, I'm going to end on this as far as training goes. Jay could say, well, Bruce Lee did train with Chuck Norris at least. He did train with Joe Louis at least, and he can name some other people like Gene LaBelle, etc., that he trained with, or even potentially trained. But being a trainer doesn't make you a fighter either. Let me explain how. Angelo Dundee was the trainer of Muhammad Ali. Does anybody say Angelino Dundee could beat up Mike Tyson? Could beat up Tyson Fury? Could beat up Manny Pacquiao? No. What about Costamato? Does anybody say Costamato could beat up Sugar Ray Leonard? No. That would be ridiculous. Tommy Hurt? No. What about Virgil Hunter? Does anybody say Virgil Hunter could beat anybody up? No. These are trainers, or most recently, Joe Goosen, who was in there with Ryan Garcia. Does anybody say Joe Goosen could fight? No. Why? Because they never fought. Yes, they train world champions, but just because you train a world champion doesn't mean yourself you can fight. To be able to fight, you have to fight. To be a real fighter, you have to fight other real fighters. And fighting real fighters is something that Bruce never did. That's it. I'll go for round two.
All right, my turn. Zone.
Yep, he doing. It's on you.
All right. Well, of course, everybody's heard the questions, and it seems like my opponent has a debate to go against. The how do you say the fanboyism and the lies and the bullshit that's been added on to Bruce Lee's legacy, in which I totally disagree with those that have said Bruce Lee would have beaten anybody, and and so on and so forth. I also disagree with the way people also say Bruce Lee was never a fighter. Now, these are my points, right? Did he? Of course, the questions we hear it. Did he fight anybody? Is he a real fighter? When we're speaking on Chuck Norris has been known to detract for the longest, and he happens to be on a list of others that I'm more than sure a lot of you guys have never ever even heard of, which are professional fighters. You also have, basically Joe Louis, who actually lost to Bruce Lee in sparring and also has detracted many, many, many of his sayings after Bruce Lee had passed. Was Bruce Lee an actor? Yes, Bruce Lee was a child actor. As a matter of fact, out of the words of Matt Polly, Bruce Lee was the Macaulay Culkin back in his day acting because his father was basically an actor. This is exactly how Bruce Lee was able to get into the States when he got in trouble for fighting in the streets, basically, being a bad kid, and he had to go to San Francisco because that's where he was born, while his father was basically, traveling with the movie studio at the time. So Bruce Lee, of course, had his, he had his legal stay in the United States. He was an American citizen because he was born here. Now, here's a list of prestigious and not only at the time innovators and masters that Bruce Lee basically had defeated in private sparring sessions, said by their words alone. You can look this up, or you can read a book by the name, of Bruce Lee, the Dragon, by Matt Polly. It's a 600-page novel, biography, should I say, that basically goes into depth, all right, about Bruce Lee's life. And these are all testimonies. You can also look these testimonies on if you type it in at the end of retract their statement with their name on Bruce Lee. You will see it too. You have Joe Louis, who is a karate champion. You also had Vic Moore, who was a karate champion / master. Mas Oyama, who was the master of Kyokushin karate. Ed Parker, who also threw a lot of demonstrations and was also a karate teacher and a master. Of course, Jim Kelly, who was actually a martial artist / actor, who Bruce Lee basically was, putting into his movies as to Enter the Dragon. And others like Bob Wall and so on and so forth, because he only surrounded himself by masters and martial artists. You also have that legendary match that it was all heard underground and said by, his first student, and, about, of course, Wang Jackman, which is a kung fu master. You also have Gene LaBelle, who was basically a judo master and had taught Bruce Lee how to do some judo, and basically couldn't even catch Bruce Lee. This came out of his mouth as well, that Bruce Lee was too powerful, too skilled, and too damn fast. All right. Not only did Bruce Lee spar and beat these masters, in which were real fights, but at the age of 16, Bruce Lee was trained in boxing and went on in a competitive 1958 Hong Kong boxing tournament to win that in 1958, scoring knockdowns against the champion at the time, Gary Elms, in the finals. So if Bruce Lee never competed, if we want to say, it might have been one competition, but it's still on record, and he did compete, and he did become boxing champion in China in 1958. Not only did he defeat these masters, he helped them, which was the list, of course, adding on to Chuck Norris, because Chuck Norris didn't get better until Bruce Lee was training him on how to kick. Of course, we want to talk about training. Training is part of everyone's regimen, whether you fought and you have a great boxing or sports combat mind, you're still going to go out there because you're going to do your job, which is to trainer, which I totally feel is totally irrelevant to add Customato and those trainers that have never fought, simply because the reason why, they know how to play chess mentally and they see things that a fighter cannot see in the ring. So Bruce Lee had both, if we want to go there, Bruce Lee had both abilities to see out of the ring or out of competition in competition. Why? Because Bruce Lee trained, and I repeat, Bruce Lee trained for real life. Okay, as a matter of fact, it's been known by a lot of people, and you can ask Danny Inosanto, who was there. Basically, Bruce Lee would talk to Chuck Norris, Bob Wall, all of those point fighters, and he would basically tell them, because they would ask Bruce, why wouldn't you compete? Why don't you compete? And Bruce told them, because I respect what you do, but at the same time, it's not for me, because you guys really don't hit for real. In real life, you can't hit nobody in the face. You're not able to really defend yourself. Here, it's just point fighting. So as to Bruce not really respecting the rules and stuff like that, that was why, because Bruce Lee didn't train for rules. Bruce Lee would fight basically and train for real life. Now, If one is expecting video footage of Lee fighting or competing, my question would be in what? The only thing that was available at that time was point fighting. Bruce Lee had no type of interest in point fighting because he trained for real life situations. Now, y'all can take a look back at Bruce Lee's life. It is recorded of him having actual street fights, no myths. People have trained with Lee, and they testify on it. It's his first rooftop fight that his teacher, Wang Sao, okay, Long was there before and wasn't willing basically to teach Bruce. And then he taught Bruce. And as Bruce was in his competition, this was the only fight recorded, mind you, which we're speaking of an innovator. The only fight that's recorded that Bruce Lee basically was getting his ass whipped was on that rooftop Wing Chun fight, which is how they used to fight back then. So basically, Bruce Lee wasn't winning in the first half, but came back in the second half because he was told exactly what he needed to do to beat his opponent. Now, you want Lee in competition. I already explained to you guys that Bruce Lee had won a boxing tournament to become a boxing champion in 1958. Now, it wasn't legal till the late 1960s, the early 70s, that and Bruce Lee growing up in 1950s in Hong Kong. Now, he really couldn't have competed with sanctioned bouts not being made or there, and one can't really fault Bruce Lee for not competing. That's really ridiculous. And when he did, it was a boxing match in which he walked away as champion. When he arrived in the States, which was like about 1959, he had a very famous fight, of course. Most that are into the combat sports would know Bruce Lee against Master Soki Yoshi Nakichi. Okay, and Bruce destroyed him in 11 seconds. Years later, he destroyed Jack Wangman. Now, the reason why he beat Wang Jackman and he created Jeet Kune Do after that, it wasn't like the Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, wasn't like that at all. What happened was he beat the man. Bruce Lee started working on his stamina because he felt like he was slow. He needed to start working on his power as well. And he also felt that, yes, and we all know this about Bruce Lee, so it's not really conceding when I agree, when my opponent has just said and claimed exactly what Bruce Lee said. Remember, it's verbatim that Bruce Lee did create Jeet Kune Do, not because he was getting his ass whipped, because he felt that all styles, formal styles and forms, as well as, fighting, the way they were fighting was taking too long. That was the whole premises and basis of Jeet Kune Do, because the fight was taking too long. And there's a famous saying, if the fight takes you more than 2 minutes, then you're showing off. This was said verbatim by Bruce Lee. Now, of course, people also don't understand that, Lee innovated headgear, gloves from combat practice. It's common now in every martial art and in every practice in combat sport. Now, Lee did this before anyone in the 60s because he was basically, he wanted realism. He wanted realism, which goes back to what my point is. He wanted realism in his practice. Now, you can't criticize Lee for not competing where he stated long before I did, that he really didn't respect the point fighting because they had really no realism. Punching to the body, into the chest, and not the face, and being limited in your blocking and your defense wasn't really taking you anywhere. And besides, in 1960, MMA, Sambo, etc., that shit did not exist. It did not exist until after Bruce Lee passed. Only point fighting existed. So Chuck Norris bringing basically kickboxing to the States, and that happened after Bruce Lee ended. And you guys can do the research if you'd like, just like I did, very extensive, that all of this MMA, Sambo, American kickboxing didn't exist till after 1960. Now, Bruce Lee, yes, is an actor, but he considered himself a martial artist first. Okay? And one cannot shame Lee or say that Lee wasn't a fighter because of the competitions that exist now. And it didn't in the 60s. Bruce made sure that he was heard when he spoke out on point fighting. He felt that it was a joke and it was playing tag. You can't hold him up to a standard that didn't exist back then, especially in the frame of mind where we're saying he didn't compete. And meanwhile, he had privately beaten these guys that at the time were prestigious within that realm. Because remember, it was Bruce Lee that franchised martial arts. And Lee didn't know no one knew that MMA even existed because it didn't. And Jeet Kune Do was basically made, so Jeet Kune Do was basically the shell of MMA, and all of that wasn't added together till later on. And remember that in that time, things in combat sports that we speak of now or think of now or any other style did not exist. It was very limited, and Lee worked with what he had and was available. You can't look at him through the lens of a 2023 perspective. Now, Lee also, let me make this very clear, Lee also never claimed to be the father of MMA, never claimed to be the king of Kung Fu. Because when he was asked, he said in jest, Bruce, how come you don't tell anybody you're this good? And he goes, well, if I say that I'm good, you say that I'm boasting. If I say that I'm not, then you say that I'm lying. And the one that actually started all of this, Bruce is the father of MMA, was basically Dana White. Yeah, he coined that. Bruce started training basically at the age of 16. And no, Yip Man did not train Bruce Lee. It was Wang Xiaolong. Now, Wang Xiaolong was a very, very, very high-level student of Ip Man and trained Bruce. The reason why he had to do this was because Bruce was progressing so fast in the Wing Chun form that students started working out and didn't like it. Now, of course, Bruce's father and his mother basically having money, and Bruce's father being famous within China, of course, he grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. Of course he did. And the reason why Bruce trained was because he felt insecure because of that first rooftop fight, if you remember, that I brought up. So this is why he learned. Now, Ip Man told his top student to basically train him. And all Ip Man would do was overlook Bruce's training as to his forms. And basically what Yip Man did train Bruce in and teach Bruce in was the philosophy of Taoism and Wing Chun. Now, it was William Chun, a kid who he had problems with and wanted him to join him in his gang. Yes, Bruce Lee had a gang at the time when he was younger, to basically introduce him to his master simply because he had those hands. Now, once again, Bruce Lee never stated that he was the greatest. I think that my opponent, in which I respect, has a argument and a debate with those that have fantasized and have added on to Bruce Lee's legacy, which don't belong. That I will agree with. That does not belong there because they're exaggerations. But I will say this. Bruce Lee, having all those fights and testimonies and also surrounding himself around masters at the time, because remember, we're talking 60s and 70s, at the time that were masters and had open schools after Bruce Lee had introduced them on how to franchise and open schools, and also having basically his own natives and his own race going against him because Bruce Lee wasn't racist, and he also felt that Hollywood had a certain racism, right? We all got to understand these gentlemen, and this is proven fact, had gotten better in their fight styles and in their forms because Bruce Lee was there to help train them get better. This is why there were more trophies. So you got to understand the nature of Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was a fighter, wasn't competitive because it wasn't real life situations. Bruce Lee was a fighter basically who trained for real life situations. Yes, he was an actor and brought that into film. This is exactly why he's innovative, and not even most all of the martial arts movies that Bruce Lee had made basically have a different style, different feel that everybody tried to copy after he was done, simply because it had form, but yet it was formless. These guys were fighting each other, the chop sake flicks, with Wing Chun forms and praying mantis forms, and this is why we would get the 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4 lop sounds, 1, 2, 3, 4 low kicks. Bruce Lee wasn't about that. Bruce Lee, if you look at his fights, they were like in real life situations. And Bruce Lee did exaggerate at certain points from him not really being touched like that, but at the same time, he made up for it fighting one-on-ones with the masters at the end to show you exactly how flawed techniques can be if you're able to train and catch it. Now, as for training, Bruce Lee trained and got a lot of his training from Sandow. If you know who Sandow is, in the bodybuilding world, you get a Sandow trophy. Reason why you get a Sandow trophy is because at the time, Sandow was the most physical specimen known to human beings at the time, and he had a very, very crazy training regimen, which not only consisted of weights, which weren't that heavy, it also consisted of isokinetics. Now, isokinetics, he also worked out with the innovator and later on down the line, or somewhere down that same timeline, as Sandow, which was Jack LaLanne. Bruce Lee also used the universal, weight systems and everything else, and also teamed up with Joe Weider and would drink cow blood, beef. Okay, he would drink that in his shakes as well because he was all about protein. This is exactly why Bruce Lee was a physical specimen that he was. Now, Bruce Lee blew his back out not by fighting. Of course, once again, I'm going to point out that most of the movies you've seen about Bruce Lee, the biographies, they're all exaggerated. Of course, Hollywood likes to throw a little glamour behind it. Bruce Lee hurt his back doing labor, and it was very, very fucking known that he came back and he really he didn't write Jeet Kune Do while his back was broke. He wrote Jeet Kune Do while he was healing, almost on the way to recovery, and he recovered even more. So basically, Bruce Lee was a scientist of the combat sports, an innovator, also made a lot of headgears, and I've already said this. So Bruce Lee is basically an entity in which combat sports utilizes all around, whether it's mixed martial arts, whether it's kickboxing, whether it's judo, it's all because of Bruce Lee. Every dojo, every studio, every gym has a picture of Bruce Lee. Why is that? Because Bruce Lee is known to, and those that really know Bruce Lee and not fall into the glory or not even the glamorized glory of Bruce Lee, which is false, which his family agrees. If he was alive, he'd agree as well. And real people that actually study Bruce Lee like I do would understand that Bruce Lee was an innovator, and he taught these guys technique on real life situations. This is exactly why they went on. This is all I'm going to say for now. Thank you.
I'm gonna pause till Zone comes back.
All right, I'll hold.
This would be the rebuttal if you guys want to go ahead. Because Zone can't judge anything. He's just more so the moderator and the lead guy.
Well, he gotta tell us. He gotta tell us who exactly had that round from you guys. Remember?
Okay.
So we can't. Yeah. So we can't move on without him.
Well, I think the rebuttal's a part of it, but
yeah, the rebuttal round is.
I don't want to continue. It's his platform. I don't think it'd be right for us to keep going without him here.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure.
No doubt. Pardon the silence, guys. Pardon the silence.
But I'm sure he'll be back. It shouldn't take him that long.
Yeah, he'll be here.
Doing something. Phone probably died. He probably forgot to charge it or something. Go get your popcorn. Go get your beer. Go get your water.
Go take a piss. Go take a shit. This is the intermission. This debate has been brought to you by Canelo Alvarez's Clenbuterol Chews. Now available in carne asada flavor. Also, get the novel written by Amir Khan. Could have been, should have been, but I didn't. At your local Barnes and Nobles or wherever they sell books. Only 99 cents.
You can keep the first 98 cents.
And you can keep the first 98 cents.
Hey, Zone said to continue in the
All
chat.
right, go ahead, bro.
All right, so I'm going to rebuttal to some points, okay?
Go ahead.
First, let's start off with he sparred in the background. Well, I'm sorry, sparring doesn't make you a real fighter. It doesn't make you a professional fighter. It doesn't make you good. You could spar with people to help them improve, but that doesn't per se mean yourself you could win in a fight. I'll give the latest example of a guy who said he got the better, and both these people are professional fighters. Mind you, But just to show an example of how sparring doesn't matter. It was rumored, it was put out, and it was said by Dillian White that he knocked out Tyson Fury multiple times in sparring. This is something that Tyson Fury did not even refute. He did not refute it not one time. So that leads me to believe that it is true. However, we all saw what happened when the real fight happened. Dillian White got knocked out and he beat him with ease. Sparring is not conducive to an actual real fight. Sparring is there to help people, not to kill people. So you can't go by who somebody sparred. Let me name a person who sparred with a lot of people over in the UK right now that nobody's heard of outside of us. Brian Harker. Would any of us say that Brian Harker is one of the greatest fighters of all time because he sparred with people in the UK? No, because sparring alone does not make you a real fighter. It doesn't put you on that level where you can even be considered to wear that type of cloth. So the sparring sessions to me mean nothing. While you have a few who may say that Bruce could have fought, could have been a champion, would have been a champion, you have just as many who trained with him that said he never would have been. So it's all hypothetical. It's neither good nor negative for him. It's just a question mark. Like his entire aura is a question mark when it comes to real fighting. We don't know because he never did it. That is the issue. As far as posters or gym walls go, look, we're not here to debate whether Bruce Lee was a philosopher, inspirational, whether he was a great martial artist, whether he was good in his movies, whether he could inspire people like MLK. We're not here to debate that because all those he was and he could and he did. But fighting was not a part of that. There are posters and gym walls, and there's professional fighters right now that say they were inspired by Jean-Claude Van Damme. But you know what the difference in between Jean-Claude Van Damme and Bruce Lee is? Jean-Claude Van Damme actually won trophies, tournaments, knocked out people in competitions, full contact. So there's a disparity here. You have one guy who was known to do more of, but never did nothing versus a guy who's also inspired that actually has trophies. So do people consider Jean-Claude Van Damme one of the greatest fighters of all time? No, they don't, even though he has the trophies that Bruce Lee doesn't. So inspiration and having posters on the wall really doesn't mean anything when it comes to you yourself being an actual fighter. So when you stated that Bruce Lee started headgear and gloves, that came from him. Well, to me, in my mind, that tells me that even shows more fear of fighting somebody. See, when I used to spar or do amateurs, I used to hate it because I had to wear bigger gloves. I had to wear headgear. So I knew that the power and the damage that I was inflicting on my opponent was lessened. So I couldn't hurt them as bad. I couldn't finish them as fast. It protected them. So while it is great to have protection, protection removes you away from this real notion of idea of a real fight. Well, if you only want real fights, the real fight experience, no rules, then why are you over here coming up with protection to protect you from the closest thing to a real fight in a controlled environment you could have? To me, that's not a positive to being a fighter. That's actually a negative. So let's move past that. Let's go to the one guy that was a master of, I believe he was a Wing Chun master, which Bruce Lee came from, which was Wong Jackman. Now, here's the problem with all of Bruce Lee. There's secondhand sources, their backroom fights. Nobody knows what happened. In fact, the only people that stated that Bruce Lee won the fight that was there was his wife, who wrote the book. I believe his son Brandon was there, who said he won. So you can't trust either one of them. And Bruce Lee himself said he won. However, Wong Jackman said it was a draw. It was about a 20-plus minute fight. He said Bruce Lee was fighting like he wanted to kill me, and I went to shake his hand at the beginning, and he tried to plug my eyes out. Now, if you go from somebody who's not related to Bruce Lee, we go to William Chen. William Chen at the time was a Tai Chi master who was there, who helped with the judging of the fight. And he stated that, guess what? The fight was a draw. Nobody won. He also said that Wong Jackman said before he fought Bruce Lee that he was not going to use his known kicks. He would fight him with his hands because he felt like it would be unfair. And for the 25 minutes he said the fight lasted, he didn't throw one kick and still drew with Bruce Lee. Now, let's explore that. Wong Jackman, who you brought up, who you rest this on, stated that he won, stated it was a draw, but he was holding back, and Bruce Lee said that he won. Now, here's what you didn't bring up. After all, it came out because Bruce Lee, according to Wong Jackman, said, let's keep this private in between us and not tell anybody about the fight. So they were to silence themselves. However, it was Bruce Lee that came out bragging about how he won the fight. What you left out was Wong Jackman challenged Bruce Lee for the world to see how the fight would play out if they really fought. And guess who denied the fight? Bruce Lee. Guess who ran from the fight? Bruce Lee. That would have been the first time anybody would have got the opportunity to see him on camera, on film, actually fighting somebody who wanted to fight him. And I must repeat again, a guy who was just a master of Wing Chun, not an actual fighter. We have seen so many masters of the martial arts get exposed because unless you actually fight, it is different. You can look good on film. You can look good hitting a bag. You can look good moving around the gym. But until you actually have somebody in front of you that's trying to take you out like you're trying to take them out, you don't really know how good you are. And that's something he lacked and something he denied. He didn't want to fight him. Now, you brought up Gary Elms. What you left out was this was in high school. This wasn't a professional boxing match. This wasn't against a guy who had a professional record. This was against an amateur guy who some people argue didn't even exist. Now, there's validity to that because, Zone, if you want this after, I can post it to you. What was not mentioned was this fight happened in 1958. However, in 1956, China banned boxing, but yet this is supposed to be a high school sanctioned fight or competition, I should say. But fuck it, we'll give it to them. Let's say they did it off the record, under the table, they hid it under the rug, and they had this competition. What are we talking about here? Do we speak about John Smith from down the street, who was a good amateur boxer, and compare him to great fighters, what he did when he was 17 years old, fighting other people who were 17 years old? No, because those are not real fighters. There's not one person right now who's an amateur fighter with one or two, maybe three fights. I think Bruce Lee had 3 fights total, allegedly, if it actually happened, which we don't know. Like everything is a mystery. There's always people who say it did and people who say it didn't. There's pictures that allegedly show him, and there's people that say those pictures aren't actually of him. So it's always a mystery. It's always something thrown in there, always something you have to caveat off of and ask yourself, did this actually happen with Bruce? Because there's no proof of anything. Now, again, do we consider any 17-year-old who's never had a professional fight a real fighter with 3 amateur fights? No, we don't. So even if he did beat Gary Elms, even if he really did exist, it's irrelevant because Gary Elms was nobody. He didn't go on to do anything. He literally, at this story of Bruce Lee allegedly beating him, nobody would know who he is. That's the only reason why we know who he is. So I don't see how that means anything. Now, that also addresses the underground. Everything with Bruce Lee is underground. It's underground. There's no photos. There's no videos. And yes, there were videos back then. We could look up fights of Joe Louis. We could look up fights of Chuck Norris. We could look up boxing matches all from there. So there was cameras all over the place. In fact, you already admitted there was cameras because he was doing movies. So we know things could be recorded back in the 1960s, early 1970s before he passed away. Also, you said that he could not do kickboxing because it didn't come around. Well, that's not actually true. Kickboxing did not explode in America until 1974. And it wasn't Chuck Norris that blew it up. It was Joe Louis. However, it actually started in America in 1970, and it was huge in Japan all through the 1960s. So he could have competed if full contact is what he was looking for. But I digress. Full contact already existed. You call it point fighting, but it was still full contact. It was real punches. It was real kicks. People were really getting knocked out, were really getting hurt. So that's something that he claimed that he didn't like, but yet was seen hanging around all the champions. So if you don't like it, if you don't think it's real, if you don't think it's great, then why are you hanging around with all these karate champions? Why are you going to all these events to watch it and admire it if you think it's not real fighting? No, the fact of the matter is he never really fought. And that's the issue. the few fights that we can point to that he allegedly did, just as many people saying that he did it, there's just as many people saying he didn't do it. And at the end of the day, whether he did it or not, he was still fighting nobodies in the fighting world. They were nobodies. Like I have to say it again, like, what does fighting a high school amateur match at 17 years old do for anyone? It does nothing. He did not fight, and he came up with excuses of why he would not fight. All he ever did was do demonstrations, stand here. In fact, Zone, you used to be in the military. We used to always make fun of people doing combatives whenever I was in the military because it always used to be training like this. Hold on, let me lay down. Okay, you lay on top of me. Okay, now you put your arm under my forearm so I can choke you. Okay, now we're gonna go. Try to get out of this chokehold. Well, I'm sorry, that's not how real fighting works. In real fighting, the 6-inch punch where you sit there, gain your energy, and then bow, explode forward, does not work. He did it on standing still targets. It doesn't work. The one time that we saw him with somebody moving, they were in full coverage, full karate protection from the head to the chest to the feet to the hands, full protection. And they didn't even contact each other. He stopped short. They tried to do a little block, standing still, and he stopped short from hitting them. So again, that proves nothing. In a real fight, nobody's going to stand in front of you, not move. They're going to move. You know this, Jay. You fought. I hate to say it. No,
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to let you know that I know this. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to give you your respect right now because, like me, you fought probably on a higher level. You are more of a real fighter than Bruce Lee was because you actually fought. You actually have recorded fights against other people who actually fought, who were tested. So you are more of a real fighter, in my opinion, than Bruce Lee is. Now, again, to fall back to end this rebuttal so it doesn't drag on forever, everything about him is a mystery. Everything about him is what he could have, should have, or probably could have done. He was around 2 champions who said they did not believe he could fight in a real fight. Yes, they recanted, but they had to because the martial arts world protects Bruce Lee so much. Yes, he was around other fighters who said he could fight. Maybe they were his friends. Maybe he really could fight. But at the end of the day, could does not mean can. The only way to prove that you can is to actually do it. And unfortunately for Bruce, with all the pluses he has, all the philosophy, all the styles he created, everybody he inspired, he never did. And that's the problem. He was never a real fighter.
All right, cool. Let me cut it out. So let me let everybody know the audience is picking up. The Jedi is go ahead and he's about to rebuttal. All right. After he rebuttals, it's going to be open dialogue in which the judges then can ask questions based on all the information that's been presented for clarity. And then these guys will close. Also, Tony,
I wanted to say like 2 more things, and then you hopped on. I wasn't actually done.
No, you keep going. I want you to keep going, but I got to stop you because you're doing something that's kind of murking you up a little bit. You're not presenting anything to me. So do me a favor. If you're going to say you're going to drop something, it needs to be to Phil and Bruce Gas. I'm just the host. So it feels like the sound of it is like you're presenting something to me. I am completely neutral. I am the host, and I don't want you to thread your whole argument by doing that. You're not proving anything to me or anything. It's to Phil and Bruce Gas. So when you present your argument, don't reference me. I'm just hosting. Go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah, I got you. I was just saying it because I knew you was I don't know if anybody else was in the military. I just use you as an example. But but the fact is he never did. And finally we come to his last point. He was a scientist. Well, there's a lot of scientists, engineers who create things that cannot do what they create. The guy who created the AR-15, the AR-10, Armalite 10, Armalite 15, never won a shooting competition. Does that mean he's a shooter because he created it? No. The man who created the first car never won a race. Does that mean he's a race car driver? No. The man who created the first car never won a race. Does that mean he's a shooter because he created it? No. The man who created the first car never won a race. Does that mean he's a race car driver? No. The man who created the first car never won a race. Does that mean he's a race car driver? No. By default, being a scientist, an inventor, does not mean you can do what you created. It just means you came up with the tool that other people use to do what you wish you could. And I'm not saying he couldn't, but what I am saying is he never did once again. And that's the problem when it comes to Bruce. He never fought. So he cannot, by definition, be considered a real fighter. I'm done now.
All right, no doubt. All right, well, you spoke about why he hangs around champions. You just made my argument on that clear. See, Bruce Lee didn't create any styles. He put on he created one name, Way of the Intercepting Fist, and took the styles that already existed with the tools that were made at that time. You know what I'm saying? He took that and he put them all together. Why would he hang around champions? Simply because what he did. This is why he is a martial arts scientist, an engineer, an inventor. Because a lot of people have studied Jeet Kune Do, have opened the doors to their lives to Wing Chun as well because of Bruce Lee, and added it onto their styles. You know, as the striking and and basically trapping and entering. So a lot, that's innovation. Yes, you it depends if you're doing it with papers behind you. If you're a scientist and an inventor, yeah, but at the same time, the only papers that exist in martial arts were basically what the tournaments with the degree saying you was that, and your belts, which were red, black, green, brown in karate. You know what I'm saying? Which is something he really never took into consideration, except for judo. That's basically it. Which was around at the time. The only thing, judo, shotokan, all them other things. Now, you had also basically defeated yourself in my argument where kickboxing, because you said it was born in the 70s. I had made my point clear that it was in the 60s, around there, that at the time when Bruce Lee was doing all these demonstrations, hanging around all of these grandmasters and masters of different styles, simply because he can feed off of them and correct them, and them giving him more information so he can create Jeet Kune Do as to what styles he needed. This is why he hung around champions. The kickboxing was brought in, whether it was Benny the Jet, whether it was Don the Dragon Wilson, whether at that time, whoever it was that brought it in, it's still in my argument, and you even said it, didn't come into the 70s. Bruce Lee at that time in the 70s was busy filming. He was doing his acting and his choreography, and also breaking in to his film studies and becoming the first martial artist in America, which he was, to actually innovate movies, right, with real fucking moves in real life situations. Like I said, if you take a good look at Bruce Lee cinema history and his filmology, everything is with real life fucking fighting, real life blows, real life blocks, drills, all that. It's all in the movie. So basically, to say that none of his shit didn't work, but yet he was hanging around grandmasters and masters in order for him to take what he could to supplement his style, so that way, in case you you were in the street and you were fighting, you went up against somebody that knew judo, someone that knew hapkido, someone that knew fucking karate, somebody that knew kickboxing, right? You would put that in the style, and if you studied that, you would know exactly how to escape from that or how to defend against that. So, like I said, I stand on, and so do many others that have said this, because I'm not the only one saying this. So you can say it's verbatim, that Bruce Lee was a basic combat fucking scientist. He was a martial arts scientist and an innovator. Now you say that sparring doesn't matter, but it's totally different when you're talking boxing, which boxing should really thank for Bruce Lee innovating, not creating, innovating the paddings of basically to protect themselves, because remember that gear is basically the essential to safety, and it would be very dumb for some, not calling you dumb if you didn't, or anyone else out there that went into sparring without any headgear. But since you're going 70% most of the time, right? Me as a fighter as well can say this. When you're going a bit hard on each other, sometimes blow lands. I mean, look how, if you want to go to boxing, look, Errol Spence Jr., other guys, right, have claimed this shit because they didn't. A lot of people believe him, right? And he didn't show nothing but a gauze over his eye, but didn't show the injury. But retinas torn, motherfuckers getting knocked out, right? So that's what the headgear was for him at that time, talking Bruce Lee's time, not boxing of today, not what's going on today, because that also drags from his fucking origin of being a fucking combat scientist. It all comes down to the point that when you look at the headgear that he innovated, it is important. When you go to sparring, and especially at that time, it's totally different than boxing. You're using four limbs. You're using your arms, you're using your legs in order to get into that realism that he was looking for, or that these guys were trained with. If there was none, you would have to be very dumb to get into a ring after you got fucking concussed because you didn't wear proper gear, or to have an injury and risk a fight, without having fucking proper gear on, and basically just fucking yourself up simply because you didn't have gear. So safety has to be given to him. As to Wang Jackman in that fight, there were 7 known people, the 2 that you speak of, and the other 5. And the other 5 were the people that were there along with Jack Wangman, which was basically a whole bunch of them that they've already conceded and said that Bruce won. Okay. Yes, Linda Lee did write a book on Bruce Lee in which she totally exaggerated and perjured herself. I can get into that later on her live, exactly why she perjured herself in the Bruce Lee case when they were investigating, especially for the insurance. But you know what I'm saying? She and his first student, which was a Black American, he testified as well. So to those 2, especially to the guy that actually had to tap out because he said himself when he started Bruce Lee tried to kill me. He was fighting realism. Wasn't going for no styles. He wasn't going to stand there and look good for a trophy. There was no trophy. Like Mr. Miyagi says, Daya-san, this is not the tournament. This is real life, right? And that's exactly what it was. And the reason why we have martial arts today was because Bruce Lee happened to fucking win that fight in order to tell them, you're not going to tell me exactly where I'm going to teach or spread the gospel of martial arts. So that's exactly what happened. So you've got a man in which we all know that motherfuckers that lose are always going to say that didn't happen and called it a draw. And the reason why he called it a draw, this is down the pipeline, reason why he called it a draw, even Chuck Norris said this, was simply because he lost. Notice he didn't say Bruce Lee lost to me or I won. He called it a draw. The reason why, yes, there was secrecy because that was an underground fight. With the same breath that you stand there and say that there were underground fights, you're using this as your argument in order to stand strong, which I just knocked the foundation on, because you can't praise something and then knock it down by saying that he had secrecy. If you know that there was secrecy, you know it was an underground fight, of course there was going to be secrecy. Now, when Bruce Lee was asked in an interview about what happened, he spoke upon it and said, yeah, I beat him, simply because he was out there already telling people that it was a draw. And anybody who actually won a fight, and you see it today in the boxing realm or any combat sports, if you felt like you was cheated or you felt like the other person is swaying the other way, knowing and everyone knowing exactly how the fuck it went, and everyone meaning the 5 people that were there minus the 2, all right, and even that tiger claw specialist who was very jealous of Bruce Lee. You know what I mean? And another thing that you had pointed out, which you also defeated yourself, where you said that these guys actually had to retract, right? Because but what happened was that when Bruce Lee was alive and they were asked this, yeah, he kicked my ass. Oh, he was too fast. Oh, after he died, they started saying, yeah, I beat him. Yeah, I did this, I did that. The reason why I brought up Bruce Lee actually winning a boxing tournament was because the argument, your part of your argument, was basically saying that he never competed. Now, what does that go to show you for a man who was a young kid at the age of 18, right? And no, it wasn't banned simply because it was all over the newspapers that Bruce Lee had fucking won. Why? Because he was the Macaulay Culkin of China, and he was well known as a child actor. And now all of a sudden, this motherfucker is taking a boxing champion's fucking title that was all over the papers in China, especially in the mainland. So it was a very, very big thing that happened. Now, regardless, it's 1958. You can't blame the guy and you can't hold him to a standard, because that's what happened and that's what was at that time bracket. Now, once again, you had said Bruce Lee had never competed, but you did concede that, yeah, okay, let's just say he did win. Well, it was competition at a young age, and guess what? Guess what? He was trained in boxing, but beat the guy up. Beat the guy up in a Wing Chun stance with boxing gloves on, and he was mad simply because he couldn't knock the guy out because he had boxing gloves on. So that goes to show you once again that my argument here is Bruce Lee was a real fighter. He was just one of those martial artists that trained for real life situations, that grandmasters and everyone had gotten better and were taking notes from him and sparring from him. As they were learning from him, he was learning from them in order to complete his style of Jeet Kune Do. Mind you, let me also remind you and put this in there as well. This is how much of a savant Bruce Lee was, that he didn't finish the cycle of Wing Chun. So in order for him to finish the cycle of Wing Chun and put everything else together, everything else was complete except for the Wing Chun and where he was, because he felt that forms held people back. They were limited. And Bruce Lee always said, fight limitless. You whatever you learn in a fight, you were supposed to forget so you can actually have it as a reflex. The posters that I mentioned are basically, since the man is dead, exactly what he has achieved and accomplished. It wasn't only because he did movies. It wasn't only because they added on myths and stuff like that they add on to Bruce Lee. We can omit all of that. But now, when you just throw in greats that were talking about him, that were actual masters, Gene LaBelle, like I said, and I'll say it again, and I did not hang this on Jack Wanman. I had also said other professional grandmasters. You know what I'm saying? Let's be genuine here. You know, there were many others. Now, to you, of course, because you have a standard where you said that, oh, that don't matter. But yet he's fought no one. But yet these someones are the grandmasters that were out there having people out there or making people, quote unquote, somebodies by their form or their style or their teachings. So how did Bruce Lee not fight anyone or have anyone just because he was taken away ahead of his time? Number one. Number two, he worked with whatever he could in the 60s. And mind you, once again, let me remind everyone, good argument, but it's pinned on its shoulders. Once you take a good look at, in the 70s, he was busy with writing a lot of scripts and choreographies for the Green Hornet. Remember, at the time, Bruce Lee was going through a lot in Hollywood, especially fighting the racisms as to, you know, the Chinese, you know, chop and his eyes squinted and walking around with buck teeth. He was trying to break out of that stereotype, and he did. As a matter of the fact, he was the first James Dean, the first Asian James Dean at that time. Look at the box office at that time. You know what I'm saying? For a man to open up innovation, if he was really nobody, if he really fought nobody, but yet these are grandmasters that helped push his legacy with the truth, saying, yeah, Bruce Lee was too fast. I couldn't do anything to him. Gene LaBelle. I can go on a plethora of masters. So to omit these masters and say Bruce Lee did nothing, but yet these masters are the same ones that have put people out there to become whoever they are, champions, you know, great combatants, however you recognize them under that light and stage. Bruce Lee helped perfect that style by perfecting their master, telling them this kick, this angle. You have to have emotional content. That's very important. So sparring, training, as well as omitting, and I, for one, like I said, am omitting all of the myths. Oh, Bruce Lee died because of a dim mock touch. Oh, Bruce Lee punched this dude so hard that he cracked it. No. You know what I'm saying? No. I don't believe in any of that. I do believe the testimony coming from grandmasters, even the ones that retracted, because they too were telling the truth. And it's out there. You can do the research that it was retracted simply because after he died, and a lot of guys had that hate influence that if you were around Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee happened to, and let me once again point out that sparring at that time was totally different. Sparring was sparring. You had limbs, not just your hands. It wasn't just boxing. It was karate. Fucking, if you wanted American kickboxing, when he met up with Chuck Norris, where Chuck Norris said, yeah, I couldn't touch Bruce Lee, but it then came out and said, yeah, I would have beat Bruce Lee. Notice, once again, another one that said, I did not beat Bruce Lee, but yet they sparred, right? A lot of these guys are going to be retractors after the fact. You know why? Because their stock didn't rise at the time with franchising a dojo or a studio, because Bruce Lee, once you were known that Bruce Lee beat you, you were known as one of Bruce Lee's opponents. One of Bruce Lee's myths, if you want to put them there, that you were beaten by. And to have them on testimony on film saying, yeah, he did beat me, didn't look too good for them. So, of course, after he died, because if he was alive, just like he did to the Chinese newspaper when they tried to call him all types of shit because he wasn't in China while he was filming Game of Death, where they called him a fucking womanizer and he abandoned his family, that he walked into the China press and was ready to kick the editor's ass for putting rumors out there. Don't you think Bruce Lee definitely would have stepped to these motherfuckers? On top of that, a lot of guys, even Jim Kelly, would say Bruce Lee was a short-tempered and a very scary man. Very, very scary man. Why do you think Jim Kelly, should I say, many degrees, a Dan, if it was a Chinese style of Sifu, a master, the rest of them saying Bruce Lee was an actual threat. And they already knew that they couldn't say Bruce Lee did not compete because they done got beaten by him in sparring once again, which was totally different. This is exactly why he decided to sit down with the best of them to make headgears and all that. Remember, safety. You would have to be very dumb to not have any type of safety. Excuse me. any type of safety, so that way you could blow your match or blow. No, that safety is an essential to any type in order to build up or to harness or skill up your style. You need that safety. So to say that all of that is fine and dandy, but yet omit it, but yet it's one of the basic foundations and structures of martial arts. Bruce.
Hey Jedi, you cut out. Hey, did he cut out for y'all, or is it just me?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure it went. Okay, yep, I can hear you, Tony, but Jedi, you cut out. Maybe he just had to go on mute for a real quick second. Yo, Jedi, we can't hear you.
While we're waiting for him to come back, question for you. So if we're debating, right, and somebody says you said something that you did not say or they misquote you, how do we address that? If we're taking
you were about to in the rebuttal round, the back and forth dialogue.
Oh, I thought this was the rebuttal.
No, you got two openings, yours and his, and then you guys get to rebut that, and that's where you don't get to really interrupt anybody. That way we can get the information out clear. Then you guys get to directly challenge each other. So now, whatever you saying you want to speak on and get more clarity on, then you can do that now in the second round. So y'all, once he get done, he was cooking. Once he get done, you two, the panel is open. However long that take, it might just be short. It may not be too much. But the judges, just when they open up and they get to ask you guys questions about some of the statements that you kind of said. So we just waiting on Jay Cotto because he was finishing up, and then you guys will go back and forth. And then once you guys go and get done, establish your points back and forth or challenge each other back and forth, then we'll ask Bruce Gass if he got specific questions, and we'll ask Phil Walker if he got specific questions.
Hey, though, how y'all liking the debate, man? Hit the thumbs up. This is a long debate. This is a different format than what I'm used to, but if y'all liking it, hit the thumbs up.
Oh, yeah, they like it. They like this format, because they really like the second round. So also, too, if you guys are listening out there, we need one more judge. If not, Tony, what we'll do, because Red Glove was selected, we'll let Red Glove just render his verdict via video, and he can give his critique there in addition to what Bruce and Phil Walker say. That way he can just listen to the playback, because he was supposed to be a judge, but he's busy. So we're going to respect that. But yeah, you guys, they like this. They like this kind of debate. They liking it so far. They saying you guys are cooking, and they say you guys are eating it up. So they like it. Let me put the link back in here for Jay Cotto. Make sure everything good with him.
So let's say worst case scenario, something happened to where he can't come back. Do we just continue this next weekend? How does that work?
It's up to y'all.
No, I don't want to take no bullshit. If something happened, you know what I mean? I don't want to take a win just because technical difficulties. I want to win because I win, not because he fell off.
Oh, don't worry. We'll just title it part 2. Because this is good information. The way the debate is set up, one thing about it is always good to have, so say for instance, in case of emergency, that's why we set it up like this. So let's say Cotto drops off. I know exactly where the pin is at, and that's him finishing his closing rebuttal, and then you guys go right into the dialogue back and forth on the next video. And then the judges ask questions in the next video, and then you guys get to close out with a conclusion. And then hopefully Red Glove can be here live doing that round, and Bruce and then Phil will come back and join us. So that's all. It'll be easy work.
Hey, I'm down for part 2. Like I said, if I get the dub, I want the dub because I earned it, not because of technical difficulty.
You will. And y'all got good pace. Y'all got good time, because really it was just 25 minutes where it's kind of getting it together. But y'all only really been just cooking for an hour. These usually last about an hour and 45 minutes. You guys are cooking.
Yeah.
Everybody liking it. Everybody liking it.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, it's been a good debate. And it hadn't really actually been that long. Kind because it was a kind of, it was waiting before you guys actually started. So the debate itself has been managed well. Time managing is well on it. But I like the debate so far. It's good.
Yes, sir. The people like it. This is a good one. This is a good one. This is an excellent one. Bruce Gas, you there? OG?
I'm sitting right here. Listening, trying to pay attention, man. It's like a Chinese buffet going on. I got the Mugu Gai Pan. I got the Ho Chi Minh. I got all kind of new terms for myself over here. But both of you guys are presenting very, very good arguments. I want to see the rebuttals, and I'll make a choice on which ones convince me whether he's an actual fighter or not.
Yeah, you're right. This is a Chinese buffet, man. I'm like, God damn. Whew. This is a good one. Somebody said his phone probably died. That's a good one. Give me 1 second. I'm finna check the phone, make sure ain't nothing emergency happening like that. All right, J Cotto back. J Cotto, you got the flow. Yo, Tony, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. All right, Jedi, you back, but we don't hear anything yet, so we waiting on you. Yo, J Cotto, you there?
Can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me now?
Okay, we can hear you now. Yep.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. You good?
Shit, I can't hear you now. Fuck. I'm gonna jump off and come back.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do, Tony, is I'm gonna give him 5 minutes, and we'll try to cut it because I don't want to hold everybody up, and I don't want it to just be, kind of whack or just sitting here. So we'll just do part two another time. Let's see what he got. You cool with that?
Yeah. Like I said, I definitely don't want to win by default. I want to win because I earned it.
Okay. I'm with you on that. But we
Man, I'm ready. Look, I'm ready to hit this back and forth, man, and get these questions in.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. I'm okay with stopping it now because the back and forth, the back and forth, what I'm looking forward to.
And I got a few questions though, man, for both those guys. So it's gonna be interesting. So whether it's a part two or not, man, this will give you guys to go and research some of the points the other guys made. So this could be a good thing for both of
you. This is gonna be a good one because I don't want nothing to stop this back and forth between Tony and Jedi. Oh man, it's classic. Oh man, that's gonna be a good one. All right, I'm gonna drop the link one more time and give him a few seconds. And if he don't come back, we'll just I'll text him and let him know. And I'm gonna text him right now and make sure he's straight. All right.
So how does your judging work? Is it after it's all completed, then you tally it up, or is it round by round?
So what happens is they wait to the complete end. But that's what makes the second. See, they heard y'all rebuttals and they heard y'all intros. So the judges got their information there. When you guys go back and forth, they're also going to extract information off of there and then probably build some questions out of that. At the conclusion of the back and forth open dialogue, they're going to ask you guys questions about the subject matter. Not to tilt it either way, but about what you're kind of directly saying and to get clarity so that when you guys give your conclusion, they can go ahead and actually judge you based on the clarity and what you guys are actually talking about. So they won't blurt out nothing ridiculous that you didn't say or they didn't have clarity on, and you got to tell them, that's not what I meant. That's what the second round is for them to clarify that, so it won't be no missteps.
No, I like it. This way is cool. The way that I'm used to debating compared to this is more like, say, amateur to professional. Like amateur, you get the points by the round. This, you could get the KO in the last round, even if you win the first two rounds. So I kind of like that aspect too. It's different, but I like that.
Yeah, I think, man, honestly, I like this better because I think the rounds, I think when you do it by rounds, if you're doing 3 rounds, if the first person wins two of the rounds, it's kind of the third round is null and void at that point because you're gonna lose the debate. Versus when you get an overall conclusion, to me, that's better because when you do have the back and forth, when you do have an opportunity to answer questions that a judge may or may not understand your point of view, and you get a chance to elaborate on that, give the judges clarity on certain things, I think that within itself could potentially sway in your favor versus somebody having, let's just say, a first two opening and a good rebuttal. You know what I mean? It just give you an opportunity to kind of clean up some of your stuff, man, and potentially say, okay, well, oh, I understand what you're saying right now. Once you give the round to the guy, even if somebody comes back and makes a good point later on in the debate that may give a different perspective, it's too late to go back and change it. You see what I'm saying? Because he's already gotten that round. So
exactly. So yeah, we've done this twice so far, man. Actually, yeah, twice, and it works out good. Everybody like the format. They really like that second round, and this covers all bases for like drop off, technology issues, biased judging, and just getting clarity on what both debaters are saying. And that's what it is, man. It's been working out so far. So Jay Cotto has 2% on his phone. Somebody called. They say Jay Cotto phone's down, so he's probably moving around doing this. But he got like 2% on his phone. He's gonna try to hop back in, and if we can't work it out, then we're gonna just postpone it. And I told him because I know Tony don't want it like this. He want to make sure that he's at 100%. So let's give him a few seconds.
Yeah, hey man, I say, man, cause you know that stream you ought to drain your phone. I say just let him go ahead and get his phone charged up, and we do that part too.
Exactly, because if you do it on that phone, that StreamYard again, you never gonna catch up. You know, you're
not gonna catch up. It's impossible.
You just delaying it. You just delaying it when you got it on the charger, but it's going down because if he on 2%, as soon as he start cooking, he gonna see. As soon as he cooking, he might get booted out.
I mean, he couldn't have fell off at a better time though, because it was at the conclusion of the first round. So, I mean, perfect timing.
Yeah, no, it really was perfect timing. That's why I said he could. If y'all wanted to, we can do a part 2.
No doubt. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Excellent. Sorry, man. My apologies, bro. My apologies. My fucking phone, man. It's shit, man. Yeah. So, I just basically say that one can't call Bruce Lee not a real fighter, especially when he was fighting in real life. He's done what he's done. If the argument is that Bruce Lee never competed, well, at least you got one recorded fight that hit China, even though it was at a younger age, and you've got words coming from other fighters, not myths, but real words coming from masters, grandmasters saying that Bruce Lee actually was. You know what I mean? Let's see if there's any other points that I can remember. I think.
I think we just lost him again.
Yeah, he went. He just.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
okay,
now?
yeah, he's back.
Right.
He's back.
Yeah. So he basically, was taken up from different styles in order to complete his Jeet Kune Do. This is exactly why, from other fighters, especially from this generation, they've penciled him in as the father of MMA. You know what I mean? Bruce Lee, like I said, was a combat scientist. Everyone has said, and I'm saying this verbatim. People have said this as well. If you're going to listen to detractors, well, then you might as well listen to those that have fantasized and had added on bullshit to Bruce Lee's legacy, which I think, you have a debate with these people every time they say that. Me, for one, I don't believe anything that anybody else is adding on or anybody else is saying unless you were proven and you actually were with Bruce Lee like these grandmasters. And that's all I have to say. Hello?
Yeah, you here, brother?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we listen to you.
All right. Yeah. So that's basically my rebut for that. I'm ready for the next round.
All right, it's open dialogue. Y'all can go back and forth now. This is where the judges ask questions. It's open up.
All right, fuck it. I don't know how this works, but we just go. So, Jay, what you need to understand is it's not my burden to prove that Bruce Lee was a real fighter because there's no proof that he was. You know what? Fuck it. Let me ask you this. Do you believe dinosaurs walked with men?
If it's scientifically proven, yes, I would believe that. You know what I'm saying? But if it's not scientifically proven and it was just said with no doctrine becoming gospel, no, I don't believe in that.
Okay, so if it was just said with no proof, you wouldn't believe it. That's what you just said.
There is proof as to what I basically stated when I talked about people that you basically would say were nobodies or don't really fit into the category of Bruce Lee actually having fights with these guys and these guys actually saying, yeah, he beat me. Yeah, he was too fast. Yes, Bruce Lee is the real deal.
Right, but you just said that if it was just words.
Yeah, to what you're speaking of, dinosaurs walking with men. Yes. Only to that one right there. Yes.
Okay, so Alexander the Great said that he saw dinosaurs in India. So do you believe the dinosaurs walked with men? Because he was one of the greatest generals of all time, one of the greatest conquerors ever. And he said he saw dinosaurs in India.
Right. And he's also someone who's prolific in history, in which they also twisted and raveled around with things, that he has said as well. So that's basically a trick question.
But no, it's not. It's literally a subject matter expert word, because that's what you're going off of. You're going off of words. Prove Proof is something that you can hold, that you can see, that's tangible. What you're going on is faith.
So no, it's not faith when there is testimony. How is that faith? If there is testimony by people who are combat sports specialists in that time, how is that faith?
Okay. Just like an atheist could tell you that they don't believe in the Bible, because these are people that to them allegedly walk with Jesus, but there's no proof. It's just word of mouth. So how is that any different?
Well, that would be basically questioning someone's faith then.
Right. Their faith.
Right,
You're
their
faith.
This is not about faith. This is not about the Bible. This is about Bruce Lee, and once again, testimonies that are out there by people within the fighting realm of combat sports that have been there and have competed, basically sparred against Bruce Lee and have actually had challenges behind closed doors, and they are on camera saying that yes, they were beat by Bruce Lee. So how is that faith? That's my question.
The fact that your whole argument hinges off of a testimony.
Testimonies.
That's faith, right? Testimonies. It doesn't matter. It's faith. There's no tangible evidence.
No, there is tangible evidence because these are people that were in the combat sport that actually had combated against Bruce Lee behind closed doors and actually said, yeah, he beat me. So why would someone would actually want to be part of something that later on is going, like I mentioned earlier in my debate, right, in my rebuttal, that's going to tarnish them especially at the time when they were ready to open up schools and stuff like that and franchise it because Bruce Lee gave them that whole idea. How?
But it did tarnish them because just like I played Chuck Norris saying out of his mouth, laughing at the idea of him and Bruce Lee fighting, saying, no, I was a professional. He was not. Then he laughed and he said, we never took it there. Just like Joe Louis said that Bruce Lee would get knocked out. See, you have people who
but that right there.
I was quiet while you were rebutting.
Okay,
we have people in your case who say he could fight, but on the flip side, we have people who say he could not fight. Both sets of people are experts. Both sets of people were world champions, but both sets of people are saying different things. So, in order for us to believe one or the other, we have to go on what? Faith.
No, we don't. Because like I said, faith would be somebody like me or you who've never known Bruce Lee, right? And have listened to the stories, and then we add on shit and say that Bruce Lee did this, Bruce Lee did that. That we would have to go off of faith. But the authorization, the authenticity of masters that we know that have created people that were actually there with Bruce, whether it was for philosophy of the sport or full contact of the sport, these are people that are certified combatants, fighters, masters. That is not fate. When one says, I was there with him, he beat me. If that was a regular standard person that said, I saw, that would be something where we would have to say, okay, we have to go with that because that's fate. So let me guess now. The guys that are grandmasters, that everybody that I've just mentioned, right? Their testimony is no good, even though they were the opponents behind closed doors, and they're actually saying, "Yeah, he beat me. He was too quick." That doesn't matter. That's not that testimony don't matter, because if that's the case, then we wouldn't have a justice system where we have a witness that would come in and say, "I saw this and I saw that." That person wouldn't have credibility because they were there, and regardless they were there as a witness, we couldn't believe them from what you're saying, from your logic. So that whole argument falls apart with the faith part and with the Bible and stuff like that, because now you're adding religion in, which is not really something that's part of this argument. And you can't even use that as a how do you say, as an example, because that's you're trying. I see what you're trying to do with faith, but it's not faith when it comes from a person that was actually there. Like, let me give you an example. There's a CIA agent, right, that saw something. So now they're trying to silence him. But now he's got a grand testimony to say. And his testimony is, as a witness, I saw the president doing this, that, and the third, whether it locks him up, whether, right? So basically the courts have to go off of what he said, what the witness had saw. So basically these guys are giving the actual testimony that Bruce Lee whooped their ass, that Bruce Lee was too fast. Bruce Lee was the real deal. It's more than one, more than two, more than four, more than six. These are grand masters. You know what I mean? I can understand what you're saying with detractors. You know what I mean? But these are people that have actual statements that were certified at the time, mind you, in the 60s and 70s, which is not much of martial arts that was out there. You know what I'm saying? It's not like if they had Google at the time where they can actually go see, oh, what styles are in Russia? Oh, what styles are in India? No, you know what I'm saying? This is what they brought to the States. Karate and whatever else that was there. Sambo and everything else that was across waters. They didn't even know that existed. Bruce Lee didn't even know that existed. None of these masters that were there. This is fact here. Y'all can read the Matt Polly book, 6,000 pages. Go and read it, bro. That none of
we could go and read it, Jay. We could go and read it, but here's the point. The point went over your head. It's not about no. It did go over your head because it's not about what you're saying. See, the problem is you use a witness, a credible witness is what you're going off of. But the issue is, and the issue becomes when you have another credible witness who opposes what you are saying, and that's the problem with Bruce Lee. Whether it's with Wong Jackman, you have witnesses like his wife who said he won the fight. You have witnesses.
You're missing others.
I'm not done. Like William Chen said, he got a draw in the fight. The problem is you have somebody who says, oh, he could beat Joe Louis. Then you have Joe Louis who says he couldn't win a fucking fight.
And then you also had Joe Louis. Hold on, Tony, calm down.
At least 5 minutes.
Calm down.
For at least 5 minutes. So I'm gonna finish.
Hold on.
No, I'm not gonna stop.
This is a back and forth.
We're allowed to do this. But I let you say your piece. Now you're not letting me say mine. That's the problem.
Tony, oh my God, bro, you're fucking it up. You're fucking it up, bro.
Now look,
I'm trying to explain to you.
If you need the moderator to step in,
Tony, we're allowed to do this
because you're just
This is the back and forth round. This is the back and forth round. We're allowed to do
back and forth.
This is
I can't make a point if you talk over me when I talk.
Because I'm not gonna let you omit. No. Hold on. No. This is credible. I'm not gonna let you omit and just say that Bruce Lee's wife was the. When I didn't state that only. I said out of the 7 people that were there, you're 2 and the other 5. The other 5, right? 3 out of which came with Wong Jackman, and the other 2, which was Bruce Lee's first student and his wife, that were there saying that the guy kowtowed. Bruce Lee had him by the hair and told him, you give up? All right? Let's not forget that now. Let's not be biased, because I don't forget anything you say out of your arguments. That's all I'm saying.
So now that you went on and talked over me while I was talking, now I'm going to continue to talk what I was saying. The problem is when you have 2 credible witnesses with opposing, then the court looks to the next thing, and that's tangible facts or evidence, excuse me. Is there a murder weapon if it's a murder trial? No. If it's a theft, okay, do we have him on camera stealing something? Because we have one witness saying that person was never in that aisle stealing the Snicker bar, and then we have another person saying he was in that aisle stealing the Snicker bar. So that right there is reasonable doubt. The person would get away if there's no proof, if you have 2 credible witnesses that go against each other, that are counter to what each is saying. And that's the problem. There's a bunch of counter. That's what you're missing. There's counter people. It doesn't matter if 100 people came with Bruce Lee and 50 said he won, or excuse me, 60 said he won, but if 40 said Wong Jackman won, then there's a discrepancy. There's an issue, and we just can't go by it. So that's the point right there. The point is, with every story that you say, there's nobody that can truly corroborate it. There's nobody that can truly, one person that says, yes, this happened. Like I said, for every great fighter that you said he was around. Now, mind you, he didn't train any of them. They were already world champions when he met all of them. None of them became world champions because of Bruce Lee. He was like a fucking piece of steel that got attracted to the champions who were the magnets. He showed up after they were already known. Whether it's Chuck Norris, whether it's Joe Louis, whether it's who you brought up, what's his name from Enter the Dragon. Oh, fuck. You said his name earlier. I forget it. But all these guys were already known. They were already experienced. They were already champions. They were already winning. When they met Bruce Lee, he came to them. Could he have improved them? Yeah, that's a possibility. But he didn't build them into no world champion. They were already known. They were already big. And then you said earlier that I killed myself because kickboxing wasn't big till the 1970s. No, I said it became big in 1974, which is after he was dead, but it was already here in 1970. However, what you left out, what I also said was kickboxing was huge in Japan in the 1960s. What you also like to say is, oh, you said earlier, oh, well, if you would have won the fight, you would have stated you won the fight. You wouldn't have said it was a draw. You would have said, I won. That's not true. if somebody's being honest. If they truly felt like they didn't win, but they didn't lose, they would say it was a draw. But the one thing that would have shed light on everything about how good or bad Bruce Lee really was if they fought in public, like Juan Jackman wanted them to do, and Bruce Lee denied it. He would not do it. He would not let the public see it. So if the public's never allowed to see your guy fight, then how can we consider him a real fighter? And it's not just smoke and mirrors and mythology.
Right, and this is what comes out. The way you perceive smoking myths and mythology is the same thing I do, but you got it a little twisted simply because, let's go back to the courts. If there's no evidence, what are they going off of? They're going off of the witness's testimony if there is no evidence, if there are no exhibitions, right, to show whatsoever. So that's exactly what they're going over. So the same testimony that we're having there with or without evidence, but they're still trying to say, because a lot of witnesses are the ones that get a lot of people locked up. It's not only evidence, it's more witness than it would be evidence. You know what I'm saying? And especially we're talking in the time bracket of the 1960s, 1970s, which there weren't fucking much. You know what I'm saying? You know, you also got to understand that to say men of stature like Joe Louis, who said he couldn't touch Bruce Lee, but then detracted, just like Chuck Norris did after he said Bruce Lee beat him, right? You got guys like, you know, you got like Oyama, you got Ed Parker, right? You had Jim Kelly, you had Gene LaBelle. You had a lot of these guys who actually had it out with Bruce Lee behind closed doors. All right, the way they sparred, they weren't going soft. We know this. So once again, these guys that are certified, right? And you even said it. Why does he surround himself around martial artists, grandmasters, and stuff like that? Well, here you go. It ultimately defeats your argument with what you're saying as to you can't believe what other people are saying because we didn't see it after I already explained to you, right, that all there was is point fightings in the 60s, right, going into the 70s. Then it became something more after I already explained that. After I already explained that Bruce Lee was
and he fell off. Just for the judges, and I'm not going to bring up any points. I'm posting links in the background versus just saying stuff, just so y'all know, for proof.
I see your links, bro. I looked at them. I'm looking at the stuff.
But I'm not going to bring up any topics because that would be unfair since he fell off again.
You feel told him that what's the name of drain it'll drain your battery. You got
he did. He tried to warn him. He was right.
Yeah, no, I already know how that thing do with that StreamYard, bro. That's just what it is. I don't know what it is that the StreamYard does, but that shit will kill your battery, bro. You know, on your laptop, on your cell phone, it don't matter what it is.
Don't matter what it is. You know how many arguments we got into and that shit cut off on us, the field and the guys, man. Shit. All right, you need the link, Jedi. Okay. He said he coming back with the link. All right, he got the link. But yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one, man. I'm learning a lot. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm learning a lot. I'm taking notes myself. All right, we went on Jedi to get back in. Also, fellas, we need a third judge that's been listening. I don't know if Get the Smoke or EJ you want to jump on, but we need a third judge as well too.
Yeah. All right. So like I said, yeah, I'm good. Thank you, brother. I'm good. So like I was saying, you know, you've got to. The reason why he surrounded himself around all these fucking grandmasters and Jews after defeating them is because, you know, like I said, he had helped them better their style. He told them, he corrected them. They would find it. They would throw more torque in their punches, more form in their kick, more balance. This is what Bruce Lee did. That's why he's a combat scientist. You gotta understand. I don't care about the other myths of Bruce Lee because I already am one that I'm a detractor of that shit. If I didn't see or I didn't hear from a credible source, right, which would be a master, that Bruce Lee didn't do nothing. You know what I mean? And he didn't do this and he didn't do that. I'm not gonna believe it, but I will believe it from credible sources like a Joe Louis, a Vic Moore, a Yama, a Ed Parker. You know, these were grandmasters. These are masters at their time. These are guys that he surrounded himself in around the martial arts, lived that life simply because, and also his martial arts philosophy. And come to find out, he was correct. A lot of people have applied Jeet Kune Do, which is basically mixed martial arts right now. The only thing with Jeet Kune Do, it's more boxing and fencing than it would be grappling. Remember, it's got applications for the inside, for mid-range, but everything is basically outside striking. Remember, this is the whole theory. If you're taking 2 minutes, then you're showing off in a fight. And Bruce Lee was one that he this is why these guys were getting world record breaking, that because of Bruce Lee. And these guys also said it. It is because of Bruce. So that's basically where I stand with your question. Now here's my question. Are we not going to take into consideration, guys, that regardless it was demonstrations, because demonstrations is basically like selling yourself, like selling your style, which is what it was, a kung fu tournament / kung fu demonstrations. And when Bruce Lee went up there and showed the 1-inch punch, not the 6-inch punch, the 1-inch punch, right? Where he was showing people, and that was just to show people that when you inside fight, you throw that much torque from your hip inside, you can actually move your opponent back, causing them to reset so you can create an entrance. This is why he was the scientist of combat sports. He perfected everything. Everything was like a fence. Everything was you contract, I expand. If I expand, I'm going to expect you to contract. So I may not fucking expand. I may stay constricted. This is the whole thing. So we're actually going to, and this is my question, we're actually going to omit the champions and the grandmasters that Bruce Lee had, and they're coming out their mouth. I don't want you to miss that. Coming out their mouth, their testimony in front of cameras nowadays, that they're old men, all the way on to whenever Bruce Lee died, they were actually asked questions, right? We're going to omit all of these masters after you even said that he surrounded himself by them. We're going to omit that these guys didn't matter behind closed doors when Bruce Lee was either sparring them, which back then was a little bit harder than what the fuck we would consider sparring now, because it's different atmosphere as to boxing and everything else. This is like martial arts where they're using 4 limbs. We're going to omit the fact that these masters said that Bruce Lee was better than them, knowing that they've studied for years and he was just a savant like that he would just catch on. Are you actually going to omit that from the fact that Bruce Lee beat them, so therefore he was a fighter?
6 minutes is what I timed you talking nonstop while I was quiet. So I only hope that I get the floor for just as long. No, we're not admitting nothing. We're not admitting nothing. There's nothing omitted at all. Like the minute I talk, now you talking.
Because you're being condescending towards me, bro.
I'm not being condescending because the last time I tried to talk, you talked over me the whole time.
But bro,
I'm trying to be able to talk.
You're not understanding. We can do that.
God.
We can do that. I wouldn't have interrupted you because this is the back and forth round, bro. What didn't you understand?
How am I going to answer you if you're talking over me?
This is the back and forth round.
How can I answer you if you're talking over me?
Oh, Tony, come on, bro. You're losing. Stop.
Look, here's the problem. We're not omitting anything. I'm not the one that's omitting anything. You're the one that's staying steady to omitting everything. See, you're picking and choosing what you want and forgetting what you don't want to hear. That's the problem. I've already said, yes, people like Jim Kelly said that he could fight. People like Gene LeBell said that he could fight. Key word there in both of those statements is could. Could. That's not a definite. Could is a maybe. Now, when you look at Chuck Norris, he said, no, he wasn't a professional. When you look at who you quoted, and I already posted a link by Joe Louis, he said, nah, he'd get knocked the fuck out. He didn't have the chin to take a punch. He couldn't do it. So what you're trying to do is only put in the fighters who say he could fight, but ignore the fighter, even one that you quoted, that say he couldn't fight. That's omitting. I'm not omitting. I'm saying that it's all mythicism. It's all smoke and mirrors because you have conflicting information. The only thing that we know is for true, we don't have any video evidence, picture evidence that we could do like a fucking flip book if we wanted to see it. Surrounding yourself by masters doesn't mean you can fight. If that be the case, reporting Ellie Setback would be the motherfucking best boxer ever because all he does is surround himself by boxing masters, but it doesn't mean anything. You have to fight to be a fighter. Whenever all your fights have conflicting stories saying, no, you didn't win, and then people saying, yeah, you did win, then we can't use that as being a fact that you fought. And then on top of it, when you look at the people that you use examples of who he fought, who he beat, they weren't even fighters. One Jackman himself fought nobody.
Who else? Who else did I name? Who else did I name that was a master?
Because he was a master.
Who else?
And he never fought nobody. Beating
Who else?
Who
else did I name? You're omitting. You're omitting.
In high school, who was 17 years old.
You're omitting.
18 means you're a real fighter.
You're omitting.
Right? What are we talking about?
It was amateur, wasn't it? Number one.
Like how he jumped
right?
in.
Right?
Like
No, it was amateur. You said he didn't compete. That's amateur. That's a competition.
No, I never said he did not compete. I never said he did not compete.
A real fighter.
In my opening rebuttal, I said he fought Gary Elms. When I first opened, I said he fought him in high school.
Compete.
In high school.
You did not mention the high school.
I said he never beat a real fighter. He never beat. To be a real fighter, you have to beat a real fighter. There are levels.
Okay, I'm not going to screw you. I'm not going to screw you. Listen, you're omitting the fact. You keep saying Juan Jackman. Like I said, there's Kelly, Parker, Oyama, Vic Moore, Lewis, LaBelle that were professional fighters and which said that he beat them, bro. Those are professional fighters. And just because Chuck Norris said he wasn't professional, I already came off the back and Bruce Lee never called himself a professional. Bruce Lee never said he was the king of Kung Fu. That was given to him by the same motherfuckers you're arguing with who detracted and the same motherfuckers that came out and said, hey, I was with the guy. I sparred the guy real hard. I couldn't do anything for him. You know how many people would be saying that, have said that? And let's get to could. Jim Kelly sparred with Bruce Lee. The guys that are saying could is because they have fucking fought Bruce Lee, had met him, and they said, yeah, he could. He could fight. He could,
but we don't know because he never did, because he came up with excuse after excuse after excuse of why he couldn't. And then you use that demonstration. If demonstrations is what we go by, then gosh damn it, I guess Steven Seagal is the greatest fucking martial artist ever. He does demonstrations all the time where he flips motherfuckers around. When shit's choreographed like his movies, you look good. When you do a demonstration and somebody's sitting still so you can do a 1-inch punch, you look good. But the difference is in a real fight against trained professionals who know how to fight against real fighters, not some dude at the bar, not some dude at the pub if you're in the UK, not some dude from down the street that you don't like because his dog shit on your yard. But when you fight people who really know how to fight, it's a whole different fucking level. Sparring means nothing. We already brought that up. Brian Harkins, you, me, we've all sparred people. I've sparred world champions, but I ain't no motherfucking real fighter on that level. I'm no elite because I've been in there with world champions. What the fuck are you crazy?
Nobody.
That's what he did. And I'm not people. Like I said, he never really fought him. He never fought. You brought up Gene LaBelle. You brought up Gene LaBelle, Jay. You brought up Gene LaBelle. Gene LaBelle's on record. Gene LaBelle's on record.
Gene LaBelle's on record too. You said he fought nobody. That's somebody.
Gene LaBelle is on record saying that Bruce tried to fight him. He wrestled him and was laughing the whole time.
No, sorry, you got
laughing the whole time. Laughing the whole time. Gene LaBelle.
Here we go. You got the Steven Seagal story mixed up with the Bruce Lee story because the Gene LaBelle.
No. LaBelle made Steven Seagal shit himself. That's a different story.
Exactly. No, but that's the one you're mixing up because Gene LaBelle said he was too fast. I couldn't catch him. He couldn't even lock Bruce Lee. The only time he was able to touch Bruce Lee when he was demonstrating to him the application of exactly how to do a judo flip or a side hip flip. You know what I'm saying? That's number one. Number two, the reason why I brought up the 1-inch punch was to correct you. It wasn't a 6-inch punch, and to show you and tell you the applications of exactly when you're inside fighting. If you have enough torque, right, when you're in the bubble inside in the pocket, if you do that 1-inch correctly, it can create space. I did say that. So where are you coming from with this? And the third, hold on, and the third, LaBelle, Kelly, Parker, Oyama, so on and so forth, are professionals. You said he didn't fight anybody. These are the same guys.
He didn't fight him. Show me a record. Show me a record. Show me Bruce Lee's record. Show me Bruce Lee's record. Sparring is not fighting. Sparring is not fighting. We're not going to see him tell this fucking lie. We're not going to tell a lie that sparring is fighting. Sparring is not fighting. It is not the same. It is not the same. Sparring is not fighting.
Stop it. You're spamming now. I heard.
No, I'm not going to stop it because you can talk for 8 hours. How do I get my point in?
How do I get my point in when you repeating that? How do I get my point in?
I was just quiet for 4 minutes.
I'm speaking, you're speaking, and you're repeating, bro.
Sparring is not fighting. What you're talking about is sparring. Sparring means nothing. We can keep talking over each other.
Can I get my point across? I'm not repeating anything.
I'm tired of sitting back.
I'm not repeating. I'm not repeating. You are.
But if I try to speak, you can't let me get in one word. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. So we're just going to talk over each other. This is how we're going to do it. We're gonna keep doing
Okay,
it.
look, check it out.
I don't get no back.
Check it out.
I don't get no
Hold on.
back because I'll be quiet for
Hey,
7
so
minutes.
Now you're
4 minutes.
screaming.
I talk, you talk over me.
Come on,
So I'm just
bro.
gonna keep
Stop.
talking over you.
Stop.
So again, you're trying to bring up sparring as if sparring means something.
No,
I've
you
never
said-
heard of a world champion sparring.
You said sparring
I've never
didn't
heard of a
matter.
serious fighter
You
who's the
said
sparring
sparring didn't
champion of the
matter.
world.
You said that you're the. This guy's screaming out.
Hey, 1 second, 1 second. Let me just slow it down. Let me just get y'all in here. Y'all doing your thing, but let me get the judges in here so they can set some more clarity between the two of you guys, because you guys are arguing about the format now. So you guys have laid a good foundation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm opening it up to the judges because it's a good ass debate. But let's get the judges in here so they can break it up some. Go ahead, Phil, if you got any questions, or Bruce Gas, if you got any questions.
The Bruce Gas can go first, man. The OG.
All right, man. No, you guys are both going at it with both barrels over here. You know, Tony is making his best to prove that that Bruce Lee is predominantly a celluloid hero, where Jedi is making out to be a real fighter. And I mean, you know, I'm still wide open on this. You guys still have both making great debates, and you know, I still got room to be convinced on here because both of you guys, I agree with both of you so far. So you, I mean, keep going, bro. We're in the home stretch. Don't give up now.
All right, so for me personally, oh, my man jumped off. I had a couple questions.
I just have a question. How can I be quiet for 7 minutes straight? Try to say something. The minute I try to say something, he talks over me. Then I'm again quiet for 4 minutes straight. I try to say something, he talks right over me. I can't even get out 2 words.
You finna you got the floor right now. Listen, Phil finna go to you for some questions. You heard what Bruce Gas said, and you got the floor. He ain't even on right now. Go ahead, Phil. Do your thing.
Yeah, so specifically, I'm trying to get clarity if you're trying to say that are you saying that Bruce Lee is not a tournament fighter, or he's not a tournament fighter nor a actual fighter at all?
To readdress what we opened with, this is not a question of could hypothetically Bruce Lee fight? Would he make a good fighter? That is not what we're questioning. It's the question of, was he a fighter? No, he was not, because he never fought. Every story, what I was trying to say that he claimed I omit, which he omits, Gene LaBelle said the same time who he tried to boost up that, yeah, they fought on the set of the Green Hornet, and while Bruce Lee was going for real at him, he was laughing at him during the fight. Who he quoted, who I put a link up just to disprove the lie, who he said that could not touch him. Joe Louis said Bruce Lee would never win a professional fight because he would get knocked out.
Not true.
That's the guy who trained with him.
Not true. Not true. We were hearing from the judges.
Hold on. I'm asking Tony a question.
Oh, yo. First of all, I didn't hear that because I had clicked off.
Yeah, you got it. Hold on, did you cut out right? He got it. Phil got it right.
Yeah, you got it, brother.
Okay.
Hold on, I got questions for both of y'all. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know he asked him a question. Remember, I just got clicked back on.
Yeah. So Jedi, he gonna ask you a question next, but this is all Tony right here. This is all Tony.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tony.
Again, then when you look at Chuck Norris, who was also a world champion, he laughed at the fact of him and Bruce Lee fighting because he said, I'm a professional. He wasn't. He called himself. He said, because I wasn't. I mean, because he wasn't. So we never took it there. Tells you everything you need to know. They never took it there because a real fighter like Chuck Norris, whether it was point, full contact point or not, at least he competed. At least he proved himself against other real fighters. It means nothing to beat up some news editor like he claimed because Bruce Lee got mad he was going to fight a news editor. That's what you call a bully. Trying to fight a guy who's never fought a day in his life, never trained a day in his life because you did a couple of sparring sessions with some people. Now you're going to go beat up an editor. That's not a real fighter. A real fighter is somebody who gets caught out like he was caught out by Wong Jackman for the rematch so everybody can see what really happened. He would take that fight, not run from it like he did. So when you look at the people that allegedly he fought, there's no proof. There's people who said he did it. There's people that said he didn't. There's people that said he won. There's people that said he lost. So you can't go by it because it's conflicting. So again, we have to come back to this. How is he a real fighter? And a real fighter, I mean an elite fighter, a real fighter, if he never fought no one.
Okay, my next question for you is this is only my next one, and then I'm gonna go to you, Jedi.
All right.
Would you consider Juan Jackman a real fighter?
No, just like Bruce Lee, he was a martial artist. Yes, he was
Okay.
a master in his discipline. But what have we seen with Wing Chun lately on YouTube? There was a Chinese guy who went around China whooping all the Wing Chun masters. You can see it all over YouTube. He beat like 5 or 6 of them in a row, and these were all masters. Why? Because they never fought. They practiced in a discipline. Being a martial artist, there's nothing wrong with that. You could be a martial artist all day long, but that doesn't mean you can beat a real fighter. And that's what that MMA fighter proved. Wong Jackman never fought. There's no names that you could pull up. There's no record because just like Bruce Lee, a record doesn't exist. All that exists for both are myths. And supposedly, allegedly, he did this. And then we got to ask, are the stories even real? Or is it just more mythology being blown up to praise Bruce Lee because he's passed on? We don't know because there's no proof.
Okay. All right. So Jedi, my question for you is, why do you think it's so much controversy in the Juan Jackman story
Well,
as far as the decision of who won and who lost?
well, there's a lot of controversy, right after the fight, simply because of this, right? Remember when I had mentioned earlier in the debate that you're going to have retractors, you're going to have guys that, when they fight and they lose, they're going to say, I won or it was a draw. But notice Juan Jackman didn't say he won. He said it was a draw, which right there would tell you that if Bruce Lee went around saying that he actually won the fight because Juan Jackman is calling the wrong thing as a draw, that's going to cause some controversy. Then it's going to, then the detractors are actually going to say, hold up, wait a minute, hold up. Hold up. So Bruce Lee said he won. Now Juan Jackman is saying it's a draw. He didn't say he beat Bruce Lee, but it's a draw. So therefore, what? Juan Jackman is as superior as Bruce Lee. That's why it didn't make any sense. It made no sense because if John Walkman died, now he was asked to Bruce Lee, why didn't his legacy soar? This is exactly what I'm saying. There are other avenues and instruments that consist of Bruce Lee's real legend, not the myth. Not none of that stuff that Tony's talking about with everybody. That's a debate and argument for detractors. What I'm saying here is when you can't, when you have a controversy, just like everything else in Bruce Lee's life was a controversy, when you're actually saying and you're sitting back and you're saying, hold up, did Jackman really did beat Bruce Lee, or was it really Bruce Lee that beat him? Or was it a draw? See, these are all things now that become questionable because of the detractors. So it's really the detracting and people not really being there and not really doing their research and not really looking around to understand, especially doing the math where there were 7 people, right, in there. The 7 were Juan Jackman, all right? Juan Jackman's crew, should I say, that Tiger Lee guy, and then you had the other 3 that came with Juan Jackman, and even they said that Juan Jackman tapped out and said, I give up. And then you also had Linda Lee, which is his wife. If you want to take her out because it's a bias, fine. But his student, you know what I mean, on top of the other guys. So that's what happens. Like Tony said, yes, it does become conflicting, but the truth is there when you look at the numbers. Like he said himself, you got 60% of people saying that it happened and Bruce Lee did win, but the 40%, it becomes convoluted, blah, blah, blah. But now you got to look at the percentile of what's greater than. So I guess it would have been accepted if it was 60% that said no, Bruce Lee didn't fucking win and stuff like that, right? So that would have been the 60% that won if it was 60%, but 60%, which is greater than the 40% saying that Bruce Lee actually did this, that, and the third, is no good. It's totally omitted out of the whole debate and conversation. It can't be possible. So this is exactly where the controversy comes after that fight. You know what I mean? That fight was something where Bruce Lee was fighting basically for all races to learn, the combat sport. So that's
Okay.
that's
So
what I
my,
can buy. Yeah.
okay. So my next question for you is, I know you're making the argument for whether Bruce Lee is a fighter
Right.
or not. So my same question I asked Tony. Is Bruce Lee a fighter, or would you consider him to be a tournament style or professional fighter, or just in general a fighter? And when I say fighter, you would give your definition of what a fighter is.
Definitely. Well, since I'm defending the legacy, I've got to say out of his own words that Bruce Lee never considered himself to be a professional fighter. Bruce Lee never considered himself to be the master of Kung Fu. Bruce Lee never considered himself to be a master. What he did was he would go and he would basically spar hard, roughly, against other masters from different styles in order to put styles together. You know what I mean? So that's exactly what he did. Now, the way I look at Bruce Lee, I see Bruce Lee as a fighter who has prepared himself and has learned from other fighters and other fight styles in order to create a system for real life situations, as to self-defense, as to everything else that has to do with combat sports. Even like I said, guys have applied the Jeet Kune Do to their training and to their regiments in order to understand the science of fighting, exactly what the jab, long jab could do, a short jab could do. Even though boxing was there before Bruce Lee, even though Bruce Lee's the one that actually bridged all the styles together in order to understand that you got 2 hands and 2 feet and you have to use them. You know what I mean? Once you raise them up, you've got to train those things as well. You have to make those things, limber to the point where you're calloused, where you're going to be able to use those things in combat. You know, you have to learn how to train. Bruce Lee was more to where, let's just say, he was more for self-defense technique, more for improving more technique. He would take you from a B-level fighter, you know what I mean, with your forms and whatever, and tell you to get rid of the forms and just be free and use this, that, and the third and practice that. And when they would become successful. So Bruce Lee was a fighter, but he wasn't professionally a fighter. He would, you know what I mean? He wasn't, because he looked down on that point fighting in the 60s, which was the only thing available. Once again, you could do the research. That's the only thing that was available. He would actually tell these point fighters, the reason, when they asked him, the reason why I don't do that is because you can't hit in the face. It's point. You know, you guys got to reset and go back into your form. And that right there, for me, I consider it a joke. I respect what you do, but it's not real enough for me. You know what I mean? Now, the reason why Bruce Lee didn't get into the kickboxing competition and stuff like that is simply because that, like I said, Bruce Lee already had died in 73. Bruce Lee died in 73 and started taking off from the mid to the late 70s. Bruce Lee wasn't there. So we don't really know if Bruce Lee would have actually competed and say, you know what, I'm going to do it. Regardless of the fact that he was sparring and kicking a lot of kickboxers and Shotokan and the rest of these guys out there, you know, behind closed doors. So this is exactly why I say that Bruce Lee, in his own words, and from what I understand now, he was a combat scientist. He was a practitioner. Now, if you want to add,
that's good. That answered my question. I don't want you to go in too deep into something else. You know. Okay, right. That was my 2 questions for you, for those guys, man. And I got clarification, man. So I mean, I don't know if Bruce Gas is ready for those guys to.
Right, and I just want to say one more thing. There's a difference between an actor, right? An actor that has, should I say, a martial artist that has accolades, right? And then become an actor and start like Van Damme and the rest of these guys, because now even their legacy is in question. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, but look, hold on. That's for your mate. You got to make that during your closing argument or whatever. You can't, you can't just jump into it like that. So
yep.
Go ahead, Zone.
Okay, so Bruce Gas, OG, do you got something for him?
No, I'm gonna let you guys make your closing arguments. I'm just taking it in and analyzing it, and it's kind of neck and neck right now.
All right. So look,
can you guys give me just 60 seconds? I'll be right back. I gotta use the bathroom. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on 1 second.
No, go ahead. You got 60.
Go ahead. Tony can make his closing argument. He don't need to hear it.
Well, let me say this for a second. 1 second. Yeah. He said give him 60 seconds, so that's not bad. But what I need people to understand is that they're gonna make their closing argument.
Okay, I'm back.
They're gonna make their closing argument. Tony gonna go first. He got the floor uninterrupted, and then the Jedi come behind him, and then the judges will go ahead and render their verdict. They may ask another question just to make sure, but they're gonna render the verdict after that. So Tony, the floor is yours. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. You got it.
All of this, at the end of the day, is ridiculous to me because, again, we're not going on hypotheticals. We're not going on stories. We're not going on mythological things that may or may not have happened. We're not going on inconclusive facts because they're inconclusive, so they cannot be a fact. What we do know is Bruce Lee fought Jack. We know he fought Wong Jack Man, right? We know that happened. We don't know the result. But then you have to think about this. If 2 guys at a bar fight each other that are drunk, are they considered real fighters? how ridiculous does that sound? If I fight my neighbor, am I a real fighter? Or do I have to prove myself to become a real fighter? Because if you don't have to prove yourself to be a real fighter, then why do people shit on Deontay Wilder for his resume? If who you fight doesn't matter, if who you fight doesn't equivalent to if you're a real fighter or not, then I guess Deontay Wilder is the hardest puncher that ever existed in fighting, period. I don't care what combat sport it is. Because obviously who you fight doesn't fucking matter. Now, moving past that, again, we come back to Bruce sparred. He sparred. What the fuck does that mean? Sparring is not fighting. Jay himself said in sparring, you only go 70%. So he created headgear so people wouldn't get hurt because they were only trying to go 70%. So because he sparred with some professionals who were only going 70% with him, that makes him a real fighter? Every time this dude was challenged to a public match, he turned it down. When he was blasted for a fight, he turned it down. You have to go so far back with this dude that you have to go damn near half his life. It's 17 years old. When he fought in high school, allegedly, who people argue about whether it happened or not. So if we are going to build somebody being a real fighter off of beating another 17-year-old kid in a freaking high school competition, I guess if that's even considered a competition, a high school meet, more like it, then yeah, that makes you a real fighter. No, the fact is, he looked good on film. He lived the life of a martial artist. He was a great martial artist. Yes, he can move. Yes, he could teach. But you know what they say about teachers? Those who teach could not do. Just because he trained and potentially, maybe, possibly taught some people new tricks doesn't mean he could fight himself. I brought up people like Virgil Hunter, who trained Andre Ward. He couldn't fight. He never fought. But he trained a world champion who is considered to be one of the greatest super middleweights that ever boxed. I brought up Dundee, Ali's trainer. He never fought, but he trained the greatest of all time. But now he's supposed to be a fighter, even though he didn't fight. See, we're not talking about Kimbo Slice in the backyard, because we saw what Kimbo Slice, what fighting in the backyard amounts to. It amounts to you getting your ass whooped by a guy that you outweigh by 50 pounds with pink hair. You get flattened when you go up against a real fighter who all they do is fight other people. All they do is train to hurt other people. They don't come up with excuses like, oh, it's a point system. They don't come up with excuses, oh, there's rules. They don't come up with excuses about, oh, I can't fight on camera because I'm too scared to get seen because my moves are deadly. No, they do it to prove their worth. They don't run from challenges. We don't look at sparring partners as if they're great fighters and real fighters. We don't do that. The fact of the matter still remains, and he has yet to prove he never fought a real fighter. He sparred. The couple of names that he mentioned, Gene LeBell said, oh, he was too fast for me to hit him. Also said that they fought on the set of the Green Hornet, and when they fought, he was laughing at him the whole time. Well, I'm sorry. If I'm laughing at you the whole time you're fighting me, obviously it's not a hard fight. He mentioned Joe Louis. I posted a link. Joe Louis believed that if Bruce Lee ever got into a real fight with a real fighter, he would get knocked out. Chuck Norris laughed at the idea of him and Bruce fighting. The fact of the matter is, while he can find a few professionals who said, yeah, he could fight, and I can find some professionals that said, yeah, he couldn't fight, at the end of the day, the word still remains, could or could not. It's not proven. Because like him, he's not proven. He couldn't beat Mike Tyson. He couldn't beat Muhammad Ali. He couldn't beat Manny Pacquiao. He couldn't beat the guy. He couldn't beat George Kambosos. I don't give a fuck. He couldn't beat Manny Pacquiao's training partner. Because all those guys have something that Bruce Lee does not have. They actually fought and defeated and beat real legitimate threats. Bruce Lee wanted to fight newspaper editors. That's who he ran up on. But when he was ran up on, he bowed out every time. At the end of the day, Bruce Lee is a great philosopher. He's a great teacher. He's a great innovator. He's a great actor. He's a great martial artist. I give him all the praise in the world. But when you compare him to real fighters, it's fucking disrespectful. It is disrespectful that he is compared to people who bled, sweat, and even fighters who died. They died for a sport that they loved. Whether it was MMA, boxing, kickboxing, guys have died in all of those because they risked, they dared to be great, dared to be what they wanted to be. The best fighter, a real fighter, died. That's a risk that Bruce Lee never took and would not take. And according to Jedi, came up with equipment to make it even harder for that to happen to you. So again, at the end of the day, Bruce Lee is great. He is a legend. I take nothing away from him. But a real fighter, he is not.
All right. Now, thank you for that. Just want to say, one that does not fight and has never fought would not be out here making a style and taking from all styles. You got to know what you're doing. And how is it blasphemy when you have greats like Joe Louis, once again, Vic Moore, Mas Oyama, Ed Parker, Jim Kelly, Gene LaBelle, and not only fucking Wang Jackman, which you keep, sowing this into, which is not the only man I said. It has already have been proven that regardless of the hard sparring that they've done, sparring does matter in fighting. You cannot compare the person that you used to a Bruce Lee, who you just gave full credit to, which is an innovator, a legend. Most of these guys who were fighters, who said that Bruce Lee was basically a hybrid, a one of a kind, would have, don't you think they would have considered that blasphemy and not have credited Bruce Lee for something? They had to. It's not like they got paid for it. It was the gospel truth that came out of them. That's the only thing that we have for Bruce Lee's testimony of him being a real fighter. Now, you've got street fighters, right? You've got sanctions, but once again, in the 60s, he said point fighting was not real for him. This man has been challenged on sets of his movies against stuntmen. And stuntmen, if you go look for it, they have come out and said, yeah, Bruce Lee kicked my ass. I tried to, even Jackie Chan tried Bruce Lee. You can go check it. Back then, their form of fighting, this is why Bruce Lee said it was boring. This is why he said all the styles, all the forms, limited fighters. This is why he said you have to be limitless, and he created a system where you can just go to any form at any time, at any setup. So I think that you just killed your argument when you go and you give credibility to Bruce Lee for being where he's at, when he's actually known for being the man that franchised both martial arts to America, had different faces, different races coming in because of what? It wasn't because of hamburgers. It wasn't because of onion rings. It sure damn wasn't because of milkshakes. It was because of martial arts. And every martial artist, even up to today, respect Bruce Lee and know because of these grandmasters that he has sparred, because that's all that was available. No one, and I repeat, no one ever challenged Bruce Lee except for the stuntmen professionally. No one ever. Wang Jackman never asked for a rematch because he considered it a draw, and it was enough, because the real truth is that he actually ran in that fight for 20 minutes from Bruce. These are the facts. You can go look it up. I gave you a book to go read if you don't believe me, by Matt Polly, the only authorized biographer from Bruce Lee. Then I think there's one more. So you have to understand that when Bruce Lee also had made headgear because of sparring, once again, it would be very dumb for someone to not wear safety and blow a fight, their prize money, so on and so forth, and not be able to make the fight. So, like I said, safety is essential, and you can thank Bruce Lee for that. So not only is he respected, not only is he an innovator, not only is he a combat scientist, Bruce Lee is a fighter. Now, whether you want to take these professionals, once again, that are ranked and have credibility that came out and said, yeah, he beat me. He was too quick. And these are not lies. If I'm telling you to go do the research, it's there. You look it up. So you got to understand, Bruce Lee was a fighter. He just wasn't a competitive fighter out there fighting for trophies. Bruce Lee was one that he was a combat scientist, and he went around trying to fix styles so they can be much more fluent. So everyone must understand, when you take a good look at Bruce Lee, on top of everything that I've given you, that you have to respect him and understand and say that he was a fighter. There are many, many levels and many different scenarios in fighting. Nobody said and nobody has marked that fighting only has to be done competitively. Because now if you put it in the real realm, would most of that even handle or even be out there if martial arts systems wouldn't be integrated? Of course not. And you could thank Bruce Lee for integrating all of that. So your argument actually is dead when you give a man all the props and credits to where he got to because of fighting, because of creating a system that actually helped check other styles and help other fighters to be much more fluent. You have to understand. Another thing you have to understand about Bruce Lee, which is the last thing I'm going to get into, is that you talked of blasphemy, you talked of other fighters dying, you talked of once again, the question's in the air, folks. If it was so blasphemous for Bruce Lee, which he never called himself a fighter, the guys he beat that are official called him a fighter, right? Let's remember that. How is it that a man can be respected in martial arts or in fighting if this man was not a real fighter? If there was no type of testimony, only faith of what grandmasters say, but yet they were nobodies. But yet these are grandmasters, but they were nobodies. Sparring doesn't matter, right? People get killed in sparring too. People get injured in sparring too. Sparring is exactly what Bruce Lee had at the time. No one ever, and I repeat, ever challenged Bruce Lee to any legal fights, because those guys that were qualified to actually challenge Bruce were the guys that he already showed in sparring that if this was real, baby, you wouldn't be able to fuck with me. I'm Cotto the Jedi. Thank you very much.
Oh, goddamn. I'll turn over to judges, Phil Walker, Bruce Gass. May the force be with y'all, because it's gonna be a tough motherfucker. Y'all got it, man. Go ahead.
I just want to say in the background, there is an article that proves that Walt Jackman was challenging Bruce Lee to the rematch, who he stated did not. I just want y'all to know that for facts.
All right, so I got you. You got stuff in the background. We got you. Go ahead, Phil. It's on you.
So first and foremost, man, it was a hell of a debate. I actually knew that Warren Jackman did challenge Bruce Lee to a rematch. You didn't have to drop. Well, maybe for Bruce Gass, you can drop that in there. But this is my deal right here, right? So, the debate was really good. I think both guys made really, really good points. But the thing that stuck with me was, and I asked specifically because I have my own personal opinions about Bruce Lee, and I wanted to be sure that the debate was clear on what we were debating. That's why I asked specifically, are we debating whether he's a fighter or whether he is a tournament or professional fighter? And you guys exclusively said whether he's just in general a fighter. Now, the reason why I am going to give it to Jedi is because during the entire debate, whether Bruce Lee won a fight, whether he lost the fight, is irrelevant to me. What's relevant to me is that he actually was fighting these guys. Okay? Now, the deal about it is, obviously, we know tournament fighting and quote unquote, this would be considered under street fighting or sparring is two totally different things. Nevertheless, if there's controversy surrounding it, obviously the Jack Wong fight was something that kept being brought up by both individuals. The truth of the matter is, he challenged him to a rematch, which means that he actually fought the guy the first time around. So whether you consider these guys to be real martial artists or professional fighters, excuse me, not martial artists, professional fighters or point fighters or tournament fighters, is irrelevant to the fact that these guys are fighting. Just from a historical piece, grandmasters, a lot of these guys never competed in tournaments, but several of these guys would compete against one another at their own private dojos on a consistent basis. That does not mean that those guys aren't fighters. That just means those guys have never competed in a tournament style or a point style format. So for me, I think Jedi made the best case that Bruce Lee was an actual fighter, because he did compete with other guys who considered themselves to be fighters, and he did bring out good points that the guys would spar Bruce Lee on a set of all his movies. Hence, again, tells me that Bruce Lee is also still a fighter, just not in the setting of a professional or a point system. That's why I gave it to Jedi.
All right, that was a nice breakdown. Bruce Gas, OG, did they convince you yet?
All right, bro. Well, like I said earlier, Zone 6. I wasn't expecting to come on here and judge anything. And I'm not really qualified because boxing's my thing. MMA, tournaments. I'm pretty dumb about those. But I do know Bruce Lee. We all know Bruce Lee. Like I said, I grew up in the '60s. I saw him in the Green Hornet series. And Bruce Lee was the name. He was in the Saturday afternoon kung fu movies. He had the lightning fast hands. It sounded like fucking M80s when he hit somebody. To me he was more than an actor. He was definitely he was a fighter. Maybe not in organized tournaments, but dude, I know people in my neighborhood. They're not on the organized tournaments, but I can tell you this motherfucker is a fighter. And if we're looking at it in that sense, Bruce Lee is definitely a fighter. Jedi was on top of the game. He had the names. He had the passion. Tony did too, bro. I mean, this was Jedi's ideas against Tony's ideas, and I think Jedi just convinced me more that Bruce Lee is an actual fighter, and I'm just going to base it on that. I'm just going to base it on that word, what a fighter is, and I'll definitely bestow that on Bruce Lee. But both of you guys did a hell of a job, and I'm gonna give this one to Jedi.
Well, that's good to go, man. And listen, let me tell y'all this. So for this one, I can speak, my opinion because I'm a fan of. I don't know as much as you two guys know on this subject, right? Okay, this ain't boxing, right? So I get to actually listen and play the back seat, right? So I'm just giving you my opinion as a fan, and you guys was presenting information to me that I didn't know. So as a kid, just swinging his feet back and forth with excitement, Jedi, and I'm gonna say this to you, Tony. I think there's the sentiment that's gonna be in the community, right? And that's Jedi convinced us that the man is an actual fighter, and then you kind of, in trying to make your point, you made his point as well. Even if it was a light touch, you still made his points about fighting. You was just starting to describe the outcome. To me, you described the outcome of fighting, which is tied into the question of, is he a fighter? But some of your arguments was down a track that proved that he was an actual fighter, regardless of the description of the outcome. Jedi was just sharp as a motherfucker, just period. Ain't no caveat to his shit just was fire. So yeah, that was a good debate, man. I learned a lot. So that is, we could get Red Glove can look at it and get the playback to give his verdict. The chat saying it was a fire debate. They happy about it, man. They said it was worth the wait. They like what Tony was saying. They like what Jedi was saying, and this was hard even for the chat. Tony, Jedi, y'all got the floor, man, because this shit was amazing. This shit was amazing. Like, I'm saying it I don't know nothing like you guys know. You guys are the truth on that. That was fire.
I'm gonna
So
I'm gonna take my L. I'm gonna take my L, but I'm gonna say this: Bruce Gas proved everything that I need to hear about how lost in all of this it was. What I was saying is lost. The fact that Bruce said he knows some guys in his neighborhood that could fight. I'm sorry. I don't care who they fight. They're not real fighters. You put them in there with Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, etc. All your best friends that you think can fight are going to get embarrassed because they're not real fighters. Just like Bruce Lee. But like I said, I'll take my L. But you proved my point. Like the dude never fought no one. Never fought no one.
yeah, so let me just give my 2 cents on that real quick. So this is the problem with that particular opinion for me. Obviously, if you're just talking about your neighborhood guy who can fight, is a lot different than what Bruce Lee was and what he represented. You know, Bruce Lee obviously was a very credible martial arts teacher. That's the first thing. Okay. So he's not just your guy that's just fighting in neighborhoods. He's a guy who has created his own particular style. Okay. He has taught this to other martial artists, and these guys have taken that and implemented these styles into actual combat. So for me, you know, I get it. I think it's a combination of both. Because he's not your average guy just fighting in the neighborhood. He's a teacher, a very credible teacher, and he also has guys to back up what he's doing and his teachings. So for me, I just think that's just my opinions on that, man. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Bruce Lee was never a tournament style guy. He looked down on the tournament style format. He said, hey, you know, if you fighting, it shouldn't be any kind of structure to it. You just go out there, you just kick some ass. That's just the way I feel about it.
And I feel like he would have been embarrassed. That's why he chose not to fight. He had all the opportunities. He was at all the tournaments. He was around all the known fighters, but he chose not to. The dude was not.
Yeah, and I mean, Tony, look, Tony, hold up, Tony, hold up.
He's not a fighter.
Hold up. And look, Tony, and you may be right. In a tournament style, Bruce Lee may have gotten embarrassed. You understand what I'm saying? But the truth of the matter is, and that's why I say I have my own opinions about Bruce Lee, because he never competed in a tournament. Listen to me, man. Chuck Norris is one of my favorites of all time.
I just want to ask you a question, Phil.
Hold on. Listen to me. Chuck Norris is one of my favorites of all time. Chuck Norris is a real tournament style fighter. Okay. So yeah, he's not. Him and Bruce Lee to me are in two different categories. To me. So that's why I asked specifically at the beginning of the debate. I said, are we talking about a professional or tournament style fighter? Or are we talking about exclusively just a guy who's a fighter? Bruce Lee is absolutely 110% a fighter. He is not a tournament fighter by any means.
Here's the problem, Phil. There's no such thing as a guy who's just a fighter when you're comparing him. I've already lost, so I shouldn't even be arguing this. But let me tell you from somebody who's fought, and other fighters will feel the same way. There's no such thing as a guy who can fight just because he fights some nobody. That's food to a real fighter. That is food. They cannot compete. They will not win. I guarantee you, if you take a C-class level boxer and you put him in there with a neighborhood tough guy, that C-level class guy is going to beat the bloody hell out of the guy you thought was tough. There is a difference.
Tony, what you're describing though is format. Is what you're describing.
No, I'm
See, no. What you,
these guys
hold on.
how to fight in the
What
street.
you, no, hold up. Listen to me. What you're describing is a structured format. Okay, you're talking about a professional fighter versus a street fighter. That is two different formats. Would you not agree to that?
Yes, but you're
okay. So hold on. So, but time out. So this thing applies. This right here, this same sentiment applies. Just because you're a professional fighter doesn't mean you can beat everybody that's a street fighter. And just because you're a street fighter doesn't mean you can beat all professional fighters. The truth of the matter is it is two totally different formats, okay? And you will not determine an outcome until one or the other crosses over to the other format. That's the realistic aspect of what we're discussing right here. That's the reality to it.
And here's the problem: Bruce never fought
On a tournament style format. I don't know how to say it other than how I said it.
I don't know how to say it either. He never fought a real fighter. He never fought a real fighter. The whole time, Jay's saying, "Oh, he sparred. He had background sparring. Sparring's not fighing. He never fought nobody."
So hold up. So when you say a real fighter, are you talking about a professional? Hold up. Hold on, bro. Chill. Are you talking about Bruce Lee never fought against a professional fighter? Is that what you're saying? Because to me, that sounds like what you're saying. He never fought another professional.
I left it out in my opening statement. Maybe you were not listening. I explained exactly what a real fighter is. I don't care about a neighborhood tough guy. That's not a real fighter, because every neighborhood tough guy gets their ass whooped against anybody worth anything in fighting, because they're not real fighters. Period.
Yeah. So we that's right. You got a good point. But as it pertains to the actual debate, and like I said, it's just Jedi had a convincing argument. Your argument was valid. It wasn't like it was shit or anything like that. Don't get it twisted now. It's just that Jedi had more information toward him being a real fighter. So
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I already took my out, but I just disagree with everything was sparring. It's not fighting.
I'm with you. I know you just doing the
aftermath. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, bro, you guys, like you said, you've been in the gym. You say you sparred guys, you fought guys. I don't know if you've ever had a professional fight or not, but the truth of the matter is, whether you had a professional fight or not, you've been in the ring with these guys. So you said a world champion. Would I consider you to be a fighter? Sure, absolutely. Would I consider you to be a professional fighter you've never had a professional bout and you've never competed on a professional level or a competitive level in that nature? Then no. See, I'm sticking to the facts, because if I'm out here and I'm kicking ass, you can't tell me I'm not the fighter. If I get my fucking nose broke in fighting, you can't tell me I'm not a fighter. If I injure myself during fighting another person to see who's the fucking best at that particular time, under any kind of set of rules, whether it's professional, street fighting, whatever you want to call it, you can't tell me that I'm not a fighter. See, now, but if you want to get into the professional aspect of fighting, then I can agree with you on that 100%, Tony. But from the premise of the debate, Bruce Lee was absolutely a fighter. It's documented that he was always fighting. People will come to sets just to fight against Bruce Lee or spar against Bruce Lee. It's documented. Okay, I mean, it's no way to get around it. So I read the text, man, and I will holler at y'all, man. It was good. I'm gonna be listening in.
Thank you, that was a good debate. I just want to say this to you real fast, Phil.
Okay.
I don't care how many people you fight in your neighborhood or at the bar. You're not a fighter, because you're not. Okay. Hold on. Let me finish. The reason why is because who are you fighting? What experience do they have? Who are they? They're nobodies. They can't fight themselves. They have no credibility. So if you're beating, you're the king of shit. But what is the king of shit? It's still shit. It means nothing.
All right, Tony. So look, this is what we're finna do. We'll let you get it go. Bruce Gas, you want to close us out, man? Because we're finna wrap this up. Go ahead, Bruce Gas. What you think?
Yeah. First of all, there's been quite a few so-called tough guys who've proven themselves in the bar and then went on to win world heavyweight championships. I can name Mike Weaver for one, who was bumped at a jukebox while he was in the Marines by the all-Marine heavyweight champion. Ended up knocking the guy out, and he wasn't a fighter. But hey, man, he ended up being a world champion. So what I'm saying is, man, if you're not kissing, if you're not hugging, you're fighting. And that's what this whole debate was about. Was Bruce Lee an actor? Was he a fucking media creation, or was he a fighter? And as far as I'm concerned, Jedi convinced me that he was a fighter, Tony. You made some really good points, but Jedi was just all over every point you made, bro. And he convinced me.
like I said, just listen
What's
to my
up, Bruce?
audience.
Bruce
Listen
Gas,
to my
that's
audience.
it. Hold on, let Bruce Gas he finna close out. He finna go on and do his thing. That's what he wanted to say, and he good to go. I appreciate you, OG, for stopping by.
All right, man. I appreciate you having me up here, man. My old lady got bit by a dog. I got to go do what I got to do. Otherwise, my head would have been more into it. But thank you so much for having me here. I'll catch all you cats next time around.
Okay.
All right, Bruce Gas.
All right. And Tony, had you up next, but you dropped off. But I put the link back in there. So what I'll do is I'll go with Jedi, man. Close us out, man. What you got?
No doubt, man. Just want to say Zone 6, man, thank you very much. Want to let y'all know if you want a debate platform, this is the place to be. Zone 6 Sports. This is a very good and fair platform. You know what I'm saying? God bless you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Mr. Phil Walker, and as well as Mr. Bruce Gas, thank you for participating and taking your time out, to actually be part of this YTVC special brought to you by Zone 6 Sports, the Jedi, and of course Tony Reviews. I'd like to thank Tony Reviews for being a good sport, man. Thank you for bringing the fire, bringing the best that you could. You know what I'm saying? You were a very formidable opponent. You know what I'm saying? We are cool. We are awesome. You know what I'm saying? You're an awesome dude, brother. You know what I mean? I will be checking your channel out. Everybody, please check out my channel, The Jedi, because I not only do I speak boxing, I speak about everything, and I'm also into collectibles and all that. So if you into that, come on down and see me, man. Just want to say one thing. This is how you know Bruce Lee was a fighter. He had said one time, and I'm going to say it just like he did. I fear not the man who throws 1,000 kicks, but I fear the man who practices that kick 1,000 times. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing more self-explanatory than that. That means that you can have 1,000 kicks, but it won't be as well and on target than a man who practices one kick 1,000 times. So basically what that's saying is, how many fights have you seen in the street where you had someone who was in training, or somewhat of a competitor, and all of a sudden he fought somebody that's really good with his hands in the streets and get cleaned the fuck up? You know what I mean? And that's exactly what Bruce was. And especially when you take a good look at the way he created his own styles by bringing everything in to know how to defend himself. There's only one fight that Bruce Lee lost, and I've already told you. You know what I'm saying? On top of that rooftop, you can go check it out. Otherwise than that, my name is Cotto the Jedi. God bless each and every one of y'all. Thank you for taking the time out, man. 10 players, what's going on, my peoples? Get the smoke, what's going on, my brother? Antonio MMA, everyone else out there, man. You know what I'm saying? The breakdown with Kush. You know what I'm saying? You guys, man, my brothers, Iceman. Peace to you, my brother. Peace to everybody in the YTBC. Please make this your number one priority to make Zone 6 Sports a debate platform, man. Please, because this shit right here is exactly what we need, man. Yo, Zone, God bless you, my brother. Thank you, man.
Okay, and we delivered his prize, so he good. So that's legit. Don't think it's a joke.
Nope, it's legit. 100%. Put it this way, 1,000,000%. Zone is a man of his words. Even before this, I've always respected Zone and know Zone to be the man of his fucking word. If this man says he's gonna punch you in the face if you don't leave him alone, he gonna do that. If this man says I'm gonna keep it unbiased straight down the line, he gonna do that. So Zone is a man on here, man, my friend that you can actually trust, man. God bless you guys. And Tony, man, thank you for your competitive spirit, my man. God bless you. You know what I'm saying? And I still tell every other motherfucker out there, Tony's reviews in a debate is unfuckwittable. You know what I'm saying? So be very careful, man. He's still menacing. God bless y'all, man. Thank you.
All right, Tony. Let me get Harkin. What you got to say on it? Because I'm gonna pass it to Tony. What you got to say?
Yo, how you doing, Zone 6? Paul, Jedi, and Tony. Yeah, like I've been part of boxing since I was 7 years old, right? I've sparred a lot of people that never fought in competitions, and trust me, they would have fucked up a lot of boxers. And these people were in gyms, for 10, 15 years, right? And they just never competed. And trust me, when they sparred, they were good. They just never, they were there for the fitness, they were there for the training, they were there, right, for the health point of it, and they never boxed, right? They never entered that competition. Trust me, I've sparred a few guys that have never officially been, who never officially had a boxing fight at even the amateur level. And trust me, some of those guys, two in particular that I know, right? Trust me, like those guys could go. I seen them spar guys from other gyms. I seen them, guys coming from other gyms spar these guys, and trust me, they fucked up some of these guys. And I know these guys. I fought a couple of these guys in real fights.
So listen, because this Tony moment, you know what I'm saying? We gotta let him get his moment. Close it out and tell me what you want. Just give me your thoughts so I can give it back to Tony because it's his moment and we gotta get the feel so we can close it out and make
okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, my thought is, Bruce Lee mightn't have been a tournament fighter. And he fought some of these guys, just because he didn't fight in tournaments doesn't mean, he couldn't handle himself in the right tournaments, So that's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right, Brian. I rock with Brian.
Hey, Zone, can I ask Tony a question? Yo, what outfit did you represent, man? Thank you for your service, Tony.
I was in the Army.
All right, Brian. All right.
Hoorah, no doubt, brother. No doubt. Thank you for your service, my brother. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, Jedi, you going? All right, big dog. And then now, Tony, go ahead and close us out, and Phil, you'll close us out. Go ahead, Tony.
I was going to agree with Cotto in his statement about Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee said, "I do not fear the man who throws 1,000 different kicks. I fear the man who throws the same kick 1,000 times." He feared that man so much that he decided to never fight him. And that's just the reality of it. I took my L, got my L, I lost. He made a better debate than I did. I would not say my mind has changed. I appreciate Zone 6 for letting me on the platform. Most of all, I appreciate Jay Cotto for having the debate with me. That's why I was so patient when he dropped. Because like I said, I didn't want a TKO victory due to technical difficulties. If I lose, I want to earn that L. If I win, I want to earn that W. Obviously, I didn't earn the W today, but I still feel the same. Bruce Lee, no matter how much you idolize him, how much you like him, he never fought nobody. So he can't be a fighter.
Big facts, Tony, man. He dropped the mic on that one. He left us with a big one right there. All right, Big Phil Walker, what you think, man? All right, go.
Give me 1 second. It's loud while I'm in. Hold on.
Okay. I get us straight right quick. Hey, man, listen. That was a great debate. I have no understanding of karate, judo. The history, no. So I enjoyed that, and that's a good way you kick off all sports. So again, these guys went to mixed martial arts, and we need more of that right there because that's parallel to boxing as a combat sport. A lot of us know a lot about boxing, but some of these other combat sports can change your perspective on a lot of things, and it's all sports anyway. So don't forget, we're gonna get on this track and field too. My girl Shakara Richardson been out there running. It's high school football finna start back up, college finna start back up. So we got a lot of sports to talk about. Phil, you ready?
Yeah, man, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, shoot us down. Let's get it.
Yeah, man, look, so that was a real good debate, man. Those guys brought the A game, man. I'm a big martial arts fan. Zone, as you know, when you asked me to judge the debate a couple weeks ago, I said, hell yeah, man. We went into when the karate came into the Olympics and everything like that, man. It was interesting, to say the least. I've always had my opinions about Bruce Lee, but from a historical standpoint of just karate and martial arts in general, it's got a very, very deep and extensive history. But a lot of those guys who were grandmasters never competed, and a lot of guys who have competed never have had real street fights. So it's kind of weird how that particular community looks at these things. But to say the least, Bruce Lee is a legend in his own right, whether you think of him as not being a real fighter, but his impact on society and Kung Fu in general is, it's cemented. You understand what I'm saying? With that being said, man, shout out to Tony and my man Jedi. It was a great debate, man. You boys just keep on doing your thing, man. So it is what it is, man. Shout out to the channel, Zone 6 Sports. You know what I'm saying? You can find me, man, Phil Walker, the Fixed Sports TV show, man. So I'll let.
Yes, sir. Y'all think me and Phil ain't forgot. We finna crack out that football on y'all boys, especially with some of y'all in that fantasy league. Money Brown, another good podcast for these guys who do this. Man, Jay Cotto was sharp. Tony was great. I guess that's another subject for another day. Yeah, no wonder Tony. I told you guys, when it comes to debating, when it comes down to Tony, remember I told you guys I had him at the end of the tournament along with Money Brown. I told you guys he's not a joke. Tony reviews. I can tell you when I see somebody who's going to be powerful, right, in the debate arena, right? That's what we do, right? That's what we analyze. It's easy for me to see that. And that's why I like that boy Tony. There's a couple of chinks there. If he just sit back and unchink himself and don't be so bullheaded and how strong he might be real dangerous. He's real dangerous. But he kind of bullheaded. That's why he ran through that other tournament that they had. Tony Strong. But however, Jedi just in a different space, man. You gotta think about something with Jedi. Let me say this without being like, we go into boxing. We're not talking about in all sports. But in boxing, like, Jedi is one of those guys that's high level. Don't let him fool you with the toys and shit. The voices he do. When it's time to get busy, Jedi get busy. I told you guys that I had one with him about Keith Thurman and Pacquiao. I told y'all this. No cap, I ain't even just sitting here I'm really digesting the debate. That's how good it is. Cause what I look at is the delivery of these guys. Cause you never know when you have to see these guys or something. You might have to have a conversation with them yourself. You gotta be familiar with these guys. But Jay is just in that group with us. On the boxing, I'm saying on boxing and debating. But on that, so when it comes to debating, Jay Cotto is just in another space with that shit. Especially if it's gonna be a logical structure, it's gonna be, that's a problem. Tony, I like Tony, man. So I really enjoyed that, man. I greatly appreciate those two guys for coming over here, blessing the channel, and putting it on the line and doing their thing. I really do. And like I said, Cotto is something different, man. Yeah, you gotta wrestle him. Yeah, you're gonna have to wrestle him down a lot better than that, because his cadence, you know when to speed it up and frustrate you, then bring that shit back down. You bring that bitch down, man, and drive slow. So his delivery is gonna be more convincing. But that's just my thoughts. That was a good one. But that's just the kind of stuff I be looking for when I be listening to these baits. I be liking the intellectual, social part of how they do it. So if I have to just hypothetically debate somebody, you can kind of have an understanding of what it is. But that was a great one. Damn, Jay Cotto. Yeah, he cooked. Good one. But I'm gonna leave y'all boys with that one, man, and we out of here.
Break it down. Give me 5 people you're ready to fight right now.
Timothy Bradley, Paulie, Floyd Mayweather, Devin Alexander, and whoever the fans want to see.
Yeah, listen, I told you give them something visual, so you in the head and made your own YouTube-based TV show. It's an array of IPAs and fighters on the road. Got a question? Put them in your comment section right below. Barbershop talk while you're sitting in your living room. Pacquiao, Mayweather, and we can't forget the brews. Coming to you live with the scoops like a ladle. Allow me to introduce the boxing round table. Yeah.
Rollo Jenkins, boxologist, Zone 6, Dre, BT Pound, 78 Fight News, Blood Boxing, Blood Fists, Boxing Beats and Rhymes, Female Boxing Fan, Carter J, Pull Counter, Joker Boxing, D Styles, the whole YTBC.